Right. 1 2 1 2. Welcome to the Wanda Chat, everybody. This week, WandaVision predictions. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Cyber Sky. I'm your host, Mr. Cyber Sky, also known as Graham, also known as GMS, and probably some other names that people call me that will not be repeated right now. Um, Thanks for tuning in. You can enter the live chat whenever you want. I see there's a couple of comments in there already. Shout outs to, of course, my MCMI fam and your health. So today we're going to have some guests. It's going to kind of be a roundtable discussion. I do see a couple of my guests are in the waiting room right now. Before we get started with the show, if you're new to the channel, please hit the like button right now, help the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of interesting stuff here, and take a browse around it later after the show. This is the second WandaVision podcast. There's another one which is only about 6 minutes long that you can check that's on the channel, and I will be uploading another one during this week, and then next Sunday we will go live again to discuss the grand season finale. Now there is an episode 10 of WandaVision, but they've told us that it's going to be a behind the scenes look at the making of it, so everything has to be wrapped up episode 9. So that is kind of the season finale, even though there's an episode 10. But we're going to debrief that next week. Right now, this show is about predictions. This show is about theories. This show is recapping and debriefing what's gone from episode 1 to episode 8. And if you haven't watched all of the episodes, I mean, if you missed episode 8 and you're up to 7, you're probably okay. But if you're way ahead, way behind in the series, this is a spoiler alert. You are going to hear some things and, give some spoilers. So let me bring on my first guest. This guy, I've known him for years. He's going to remind me how long ago it was, but I know that we have more than one thing in common. We both are into hip hop. I'm a hip hop artist. He's a hip hop DJ. He also is an owner of a label and has management of several artists, and he's a longtime comic fan. He claims he owns over 10,000 comic books. So that's his proof of concept right there. That's his credibility. You know what I mean? These are not new nerds, as my boy Damajanai said in a rant on his channel. He said, what's with these guys like who just start getting into comic books or just start getting into Star Wars and stuff, late in life, and then they want to try to take the nerd moniker. Nah, in high school, we got laughed at for playing Dungeons and Dragons. We got, laughed at for being on the chess club and liking Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, and Marvel comic books. So, but nah, if you got 10,000, that means you've been collecting since you were a kid, just like my brother and I did. Shout out to Jake. And so let me bring this guy on. If you guys don't know him, get to know him. A great guy, Mr. J-RONIN. Ronin.
What's up? What's up?
What's good? Hey, let me fix the screen a little bit. Give you a little.
You guys hear me okay?
Boom. Yeah, hear you great.
For the record, by the way, I also I worked at Metro Comics in the 90s.
Nice.
One of my first jobs in Brooklyn Heights. They were affiliated with St. Mark's Comics, which was a major comic books.
I remember that.
spot.
Yeah, I remember St. Mark's. Yeah.
Right. I've been collecting comics since the 80s as a little kid, and the action figures, everything. I did it all, man. Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, World of Warcraft.
Yep. Now I want to ask you, while I'm checking my mic, I'm going to adjust my mic, but what I want to know is, what is your history on Scarlet Witch and the Vision? Like, did you? Because I read those comics and also the Avengers tie-ins. Tell me about your history of that.
Well, I've read all the classic Avengers comics, and I remember, Scarlet Witch going crazy many a time, losing her mind, and sometimes being manipulated by different people. But I remember the kids and what happened to the kids, and they got reborn as the Young Avengers, and of course I remember Agatha mentoring her. And I remember the Vision getting wiped, his mind getting wiped, and he comes back as the all white Vision, which I think we're seeing now.
Maybe that's what's going to happen.
Right.
It was the white Vision, and I don't. In the comic book, we're jumping into the conversation already, and I have another guest I'm about to bring in. But real quick, since you brought up the white Vision, in the comic book, do you remember if it was Sword that put Vision back together and that's why he's white? Because I know they're not sticking to the comic; they're deviating.
Right. I don't remember who put him back together,
Right.
but I do remember that his mind was wiped
Mhm.
and that he doesn't get his memory until a long time later.
Nice. Okay. So let me bring in another guest to talk to us. His name is Irfan Ali, and he works for the New York Public Library. And he's been involved like on the hip hop scene, and what he does is he brings culture to the New York Public Library by hosting these live streams. They're not recorded, so unfortunately you can't go like and look up the archive. But he invited me to one which was I think about the Lyricist Lounge and New Yorican, like the '90s hip hop cipher movement, ciphering in the parks and stuff like that. He had a few guests on, Wordsworth, Wise Guy Gaston, people like that, and myself, and it was just basically a public discussion. And this was recently, like a month or two ago. Over Zoom, or I'm not sure if we use Zoom. I think he used Google Meet. But
Right.
but
And
anyway,
you're from that era. I'm a little bit younger. My hairline is older, but I'm a little bit younger.
That's okay. We got the best haircut, the best hairstyle.
Yeah.
Beard and a ball. That's the new look. So let me see if my new guest, if he concurs with our choice of haircut. But let me just bring him in. Thanks for joining us. He's also a comic book fan.
What's up?
Irfan, how are you doing?
What's up?
So
Chilling. How's everyone doing?
I'm gonna make a title, Bald Guys with Beards. That's the episode title.
All right, there you go. Yeah.
Good. So
Bearded
tell us
baldies.
a little more about your history in either comic books or movies, or how are you into this?
Yeah, so I mean, my older brother, I have an older brother, so he loved comics, and he had lots of comics, and like he wouldn't let us read them and stuff like that. So it was like this, it was like this thing that I really was like, mythologized, and I couldn't access all the time. I eventually did read them, and we watched I was a big cartoon kid, so we watched all the cartoons, like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And then I started reading comics more in the 90s and the 2000s. And I just got into I love Marvel, but I got a little bit into DC, but then also like Sandman and some of the interesting alt comics.
The Virgo stuff. Yeah.
So like Mike, as you probably can tell based on our limited interaction, GMS, I have like a really eclectic taste, which is my excuse for why I don't have like a deep knowledge in every single field or one field or the other. I know a little bit. So I've read quite a few comic books, but I don't think as much as J-RONIN and most comic fans. But I read my fair share of Avengers and X-Men. I love the X-Men. That was my thing. The whole allegory on racism and stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna see if there's a tie-in. Gonna see. We've been waiting. I thought episode 8 we're gonna learn something.
Well, there's already a tie-in with the Pietro from the Fox.
Pietro, right? Well, they didn't explain it, so they could explain it 3 or 4 different ways, and one of them might not be a tie-in to the X-Men, but the other ways would. Right. We're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. I just want the people to get to know us a little more and understand where we're coming from before we dive deep into the topics. But J-RONIN, for people who want to find out what you do as a DJ or as a producer, as a label owner, what are some of the works that you put out? I know you have your brand called All Elements. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I got All Elements Music Group, which is a label. All Elements is a hip hop crew, which includes Sav Kills, aka Jamel Rockwell. We just put out a record with him and John Forte from the Fugees. Nice. That's doing pretty well. And I just dropped an album on my label in conjunction with UGA and SM Productions. That's my artist who I manage, Frank Knight, and producer Chuck LaWayne. Together they are Slim and Mickens. That's the album. And it's got like a 70s blaxploitation vibe. It's definitely paying homage to the Mac, because Slim and Mickens, that's Goldie and Richard Pryor's character from the Mac. So that album is out now. We just dropped a video for that. Pam Grier paying homage to beautiful black women, and there's a whole lot of black women in the video. And but it's respectful. It's not like
exploitive.
Right.
It's not exploitation. It's
right.
In a nice way.
It pays homage to classic blaxploitation, but it's not exploitive of women. It's definitely paying homage to women's power and beauty. So I just.
Now, when you said you put out an album, I'm sorry, you were about to say
you just follow me on Instagram at JRONIN82. I got everything on there. We got lots of music videos, lots of albums out. Got lots of more albums out. I got a project with Planet Asia coming out this year. Sav Kills, who's now going by Jamel Rockwell, has an album coming out with Camouflage Monk, the producer from Griselda. So we got that coming out. Yeah, we're just putting out a lot of music.
You guys feel free to put you guys can use the chat as well and throw your handles in there too. Because and if you know how to change your name where you put J-RONIN or Irfan, you can
have
put
to log in
media
and then it would kick me out. So I'm not
okay. All right, don't do that then. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna put it up in here anyway. So it's JRONIN82, right?
Right.
I'm throwing that in the chat. And I have a question for you, but real quick, Irfan, do you have any social media handles or?
Yeah, I guess I can give you my
website?
Twitter.
Sure.
My Twitter is my first name Irfan, middle initial H, last name Ali, 79.
Right. Now I see the when people do a Twitter or Instagram and they put a number there, it's often their year. It dates them. So are you born in 79? You're born in what, 82, Ronin?
Yep.
Cool. I'm older than both of you guys.
What, 68?
72. Come on. Thanks for aging me a little. So let me throw that in the chat. So there's both of your.
What are you, like 74? Is that how old you are?
No, that's maybe my
birthday.
birthday.
I mean the year you were born. The year you were born.
Yeah, 72.
Yeah. No, of course not.
Okay.
Now back to Jay. You said that you just dropped an album and you started talking about it, but I want people to understand what kind of project that is. You're not rapping or singing on the album. You're a DJ,
no.
right? Is this a DJ album where like all your artists
No.
Did you make beats? What is this?
Okay.
Album?
For me, I recorded the album in my studio.
Mm-hmm.
So I did the recording, I did the A&Ring, and I did the executive producing. Chuck Lil did all the beats. Frank Knight did the majority of rapping. We also have Shabam Sadiq on the album. I'm wearing a Shabam Sadiq t-shirt.
Yep. I see the t-shirt.
I have a copy of the CD right here. Of course, it's available on all digital platforms, but we also have the CD out now, Slim and Mickens.
This is important because
Frank Knight and Chuck Lil Wayne.
Awesome. It's important to Shabam Sadiq because that's from the 90s as well. And
right.
And you were born in the 80s and me and Irfan in the 70s. And comic books, how old were you when you started reading comic books, Jay?
Well, my father was reading them to me before I could read.
Wow.
So I remember getting comics in the newsstands as early as 85, me being like 3 years old, getting like, what if Iron Man was a traitor? If Iron Man was, down with the Russians, getting stuff like that. Early X-Men, mid 80s X-Men, mid 80s Spider-Man. He still has the black suit. We don't know it's a symbiote yet.
Right.
We
were just calling him the Black Spider-Man. Oh, did you see the Black Spider-Man?
And I have the action figure from Secret Wars, the Black Spider-Man variant.
Right. Now, years later, we actually have a Black Spider-Man.
Right. My Black and Latino. Afro-Latino, if you want to be technical.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Can't forget all the Latin people too, But yeah, Miles Morales, of course. And he's a very dope character. I like him. I probably relate more to him than I do to Peter Parker in a lot of ways.
Nice. Well, I think I first related to Peter Parker myself growing up. I mean, I read all the comics. I think I got into it around when my parents divorced, my father remarried, and I have a blended family with my step siblings. And Jacob was my brother, and the two of us really got into comics heavy when I was around 9 and he was around 6. That's when we started. Now he kept his I got rid of my comics, early on, like in my 20s. I feel bad now because if you collect like I'm into crypto. If you have crypto, that means you believe in buying things and holding in because they increase in value. If you collect toys, like I have a few little action figures and toys and stuff. Anyone who collects, then you should have kept your comic books, but I didn't. But my brother kept his.
I gave a few away to some kids, but yeah.
I think he sold his comic books now. I'm going to ask him if he still has any, or I think he sold his whole collection at some point, but he made a lot of money. You still have 10,000 comic books, you said.
Well, you know what? I probably.
Or are you just estimating?
I probably sold. No. I counted over 10,000 at one point. Okay. I probably sold maybe 500. I sold a lot of the image stuff that I didn't really care about anymore. And then I probably gave away maybe 200 or 300 comics to kids in my dojo, trying to, you know, get kids to actually read comics,
Right.
and not just play the video games and watch the movies. And I got, you know, a bunch of these kids reading comic books and collecting comics now and really getting into it, which I like to pass it on, you know. So
Right.
I gave these kids some great stuff. You know, I got Cosmic Spider-Man knocking the Gray Hulk into the, you know, into the moon damn near. And I gave that away. That was Todd McFarlane Spider-Man stuff. You know, I gave some.
I'm waiting for them to do that Hulk story where it's like the Gray Hulk and the Green Hulk. I'm waiting for that. They haven't explored.
Yeah, multiple personality Hulk, like
Joe Fixit. Yeah,
Mr. Fixit.
Yeah.
So Irfan, do you have comic books to this day, or does
I do. I probably have like at the moment. I have a bunch of like trade like graphic novels. I probably have like I don't know, like probably like maybe like 70 issues.
I got some trades behind me.
And like a bunch of trades. I had a bunch of comics throughout my life, but I didn't give them away. I lost a lot of them. College. My dad, I think, lost a bunch in a bunch of moves. So yeah, like our comic collection. I found some old ones. It was great. That my brother's collection from the 80s. That was the late 80s and early 90s. But yeah, no, I'm just the worst. Like I lost a lot of comics. And also the other thing was my comic collection started to not get as big because even before I worked in the library, I started to check out comic books from the library pretty regularly. It was like, oh, this is like I was, if I was broke, it just became so much simpler to like instead of buying trades, you just check out.
That's interesting. So you bring up something that a lot of people might not know. I don't know how many younger people are watching because we're all kind of like in our 40s and stuff. So, but I wonder if people know that the New York Public Library has comic books. Can you talk about that a little? Because you work for the library.
Yeah, I bet.
Can you go to the library and get a comic book? Like, how does that work?
So, like, the thing is, comic books do get stolen from time to time. So sometimes we have like gaps in our collection. But that said, every branch, especially every branch with like a young adult space, has like a pretty decent comic collection. Like I'm like at least like maybe like 2 shelves worth. Our branch has like a giant shelf, and then there's a lot of comics for children as well. Yeah, like our branch is like kind of actually one of the smaller, but like anything with a like good YA space has like at least 2 or 3 shelves of comics. And then the other thing is, like I've always said this, and I think a lot of people that work in the library would say this, you don't necessarily get what's in your branch, right? You have an idea of what you want, and then you put holes. And then you find things at other branches, and then you get them.
Do you feel like they have current, up-to-date? Because someone in the chat said I have current comic books that are out now. Like, is the library keeping up on each issue or every year, or do they have a vast archive collection? Do they have old?
I want to say they're like a year or 2 behind.
Okay.
Like they do
They go way back 10 years, 20 years.
I'm sorry.
Do they go back like 20 years?
Oh, they have comics that like so we don't necessarily have a lot of like old issues, old books. Those probably got thrown out legitimately. But we have a lot of like the reissues, which is like where I read actually, because I read a lot of comics from like 80s, 90s, and 2000s, but I didn't read the original Avengers until I started working at the New York Public Library, and I happened to find the first like 50 issues. That was great. One of the great things I read, which was like somewhat an inspiration for Winter Soldier, was Nick Fury versus Shield. And that is awesome. I would totally recommend everyone reading that. Essentially, like Nick, it's like the same kind of thing, but it's not Hydra. And I don't want to spoil anything, but like it's like wacky and crazy who the actual like bad guy is. But it's Nick Fury versus Shield, and it was, from what I understand, Winter Soldier, which is I think the best MCU movie personally. Still, was adapted from that to some extent.
Got you. Welcome back, Jay. I know you had some technical difficulties.
I'm getting over COVID. Just need some halls.
I was about to say, let's talk Wanda. Threw that in the chat. Bless you. And but you just as I was about to go there, you said something, Irfan, about Nick Fury versus Shield. Now there's a Shield TV series. Do you watch it?
I've watched like 3
seasons. I've seen the whole thing.
Is it? I looked at it for like 20 minutes. I was like, to me, it just didn't feel like it had good enough production value. The the story. I was like, I don't know. They're just trying to like, oh, let's do another comic book thing and try to just create another show. But I didn't really get sucked into it. Maybe I needed to watch 3-4 episodes because that happened with WandaVision as well. After the first episode, I thought it was really cute. And then the second one had another TV show's theme. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And I thought this is the producers like gimmick. Like this is their thing. Like, let's do a TV show where we keep making these old. I thought it was the writers making it the show. I didn't know what we came to find out. No, it was Wanda was making the show. That's part of the story. So I thought it was a little mechanism.
Yeah.
So at episode 3, I kind of started to question if I was going to stick with it. Like, okay, that kind of wore off now. It's cute, but I'm not really feeling the real MCU, superhero-ness of it. I'm just watching this cute TV show. And my wife was ready to quit the show at episode 3. She's like, I don't know, I'm getting bored of it. And then episode 4, it exploded. And then we understood where it was going. So maybe Nick Fury versus Shield is like that. Do you like the show? Did you get into it? Each of you?
I like the show. It's very flawed. It's not like it's not like upper tier. It's just fun, and like I think it took a few episodes to kind of gel and be like what it was. I mean, I've only seen like 2 or 3 seasons, so I can't really say for the whole. But I in spite of its flaws, I found it enjoyable. Now I love comics, and I know some people it might not be for everybody, but yeah, I thought it was fun.
I enjoyed it. I watched the whole the series. They deal with Hydra infiltrating Shield. The stuff that happened in Winter Soldier, and then it kind of goes off into its own thing, and they get stuck in the future where the Kree control a little outpost of humanity,
which kind of relates to WandaVision because that's Captain Marvel also, and that's where we got the WandaVision character from.
They involve Ghost Rider at one point. They involve the Absorbing Man, who kicks a lot of ass.
Really?
The Absorbing Man kills a bunch of agents. Yeah,
that's great. Now I have to watch it. Absorbing Man.
They have Absorbing Man, Graviton. At one point, I'm trying to think who else. A lot of Kree stuff, a lot of Inhuman stuff. Some of the characters end up being Inhumans, and they get their powers from Terrigenesis. At the time, Fox didn't own. Marvel didn't have the rights for the mutants and X-Men, so they were trying to involve the Inhumans and make Inhumans be, like the replacement for mutants. So they had the Inhuman show that didn't do very well, but they incorporate a lot of Inhuman stuff in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Right. Daisy ends up becoming Quake, who is an Inhuman, and a lot of other characters have Inhuman powers, and they incorporate all that. Like I said, a lot of Kree stuff. It gets pretty cool. Time travel and being stuck in the future and having to go to the past to stop, some ancient beings from destroying S.H.I.E.L.D. and changing time, and it gets pretty wacky. It stops feeling like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and more just about this group of people who happen to be S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But it's
interesting.
All right, it's not amazing television, but it's fun if you're complicated.
And if you also read and followed the Nick Fury series, you probably the comic, then you probably want to check it out.
Right.
So part of the reason why I started out, we just getting to know each other a little bit, and then talking about these other comics is I'm trying to weed out people like who just came here like I just want a spoiler, give me an Easter egg. No, we're gonna spend an hour talking about WandaVision now, but like this is for like serious fans, serious comic heads, collectors from way back, not only people, and also people who are fans of the movies, right? Not only the comic books, but not people who just jumped in on WandaVision. And we welcome them too, because maybe this is your introduction to the Marvel Universe. But I just want people to understand that the guests that I invited here, the people that are talking to you, like they're invested in these stories from before this TV show. Mm-hmm. So now it's really interesting, and myself as well. I
30 plus years.
Exactly. Now I'm going to give my background, and then let's talk about WandaVision. We'll bring everyone up to date. We're gonna try to piece together 1 to 8, like what do we know now? What has happened so far? What do we know? And I'll probably forget some stuff, and you guys will jump in, and somehow we'll put it together, and we can talk a little season 8, and then I want to hear predictions and theories for next week, because we have this Friday is the finale, right? But to tell you just briefly about my own comic book background, I told you I started collecting around 9. I'm into Spider-Man comic books. I was a big Captain America fan, so when those movies came out, I was like so excited. Of course, Avengers. Now, I was thrilled with the whole Endgame series. 21 movies led to the final movie, the Avengers Endgame. That was great. The movie that I always wanted to see, because I collected so many comic books, is Secret Wars, because I was a Daredevil fan, and I read tens and dozens of books, different. I followed those heroes, but the ones I connected with, like you said, you connected with Peter Parker, right? So I connected with Spider-Man because of some of his personality things, being in high school and issues with girlfriends and parents and responsibility and trying to get a job and having trouble making ends meet and all those things that they wrote into there. It's not just like, hey, I'm a strong guy, I'm a superhero, I go beat up bad guys. Like Marvel, the reason why I think they're the most successful, no slight to DC, DC is also top, but there's a lot of other comic books that were around way back then that didn't last and didn't become a franchise empire like Marvel and DC did. But it's because they put real stories in there. They put humanity into their characters. Right. So as a kid or a teenager, or even later as an adult, you would still find something in the story that you could relate to, that just makes you relate to that character, not the superpowers. We didn't think that we could run around and stick to walls and jump off buildings and all that. No, we just related to the overcoming of adversity, right? So Daredevil was another one. I related to him because of his martial arts focus, right?
Frank Miller run is especially.
And J-RONIN, you didn't mention this. You touched on it. You said dojo. You're a martial artist. You've been doing martial arts for how many years?
Since I was a kid, different styles, but I never got to stick with one the way you've been blessed.
Well, I've been doing different styles as well, even though I have one teacher, but he does a lot of different styles.
Right.
So and yes, I am blessed. Shout out to
having one teacher. I meant just having, my first teacher passed away. Rest in peace, Grandmaster Billy Davis.
Nice.
And but I did over 10 years of training altogether, and then a lot of street stuff.
I know you recently got back in, but you recently got back into it in the last few years, right? I see.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 years, I've been doing Kumite Ryu Jiu-Jitsu and some Kyokushin karate on the side.
Cool. And it's good for your health. It's good for your focus. Yeah. It's not, a lot of people think martial arts is just self-defense and just fighting. It's, there's a lot of mastery of self, basically,
the discipline,
in tune with your body and with discipline, and even spiritually and psychologically and mentally.
Right. Becoming a better person through traditional martial arts. Being around a good teacher pushes you to be a better person, to deal with your fellow human beings better and and all that. It's not just the, if you want to just learn how to fight, you can do MMA or whatever, but traditional martial arts teaches more than just fighting.
So now that, I've been doing martial arts since 5, right? I took, some karate, some taekwondo, some aikido, and some judo, and even a little boxing in the Park Slope gym on 8th Street, 5th Avenue, upstairs from the Save on 5th, if you guys remember that old gym. But, just a little bit, got my feet wet a year or two. And then I found my teacher who does Chinese Kung Fu, and I worked on Hung Gar for about 8 to 10 years straight, just only Hung Gar. And then my teacher started to teach 7-star praying mantis.
Right.
And now for the rest of his life, he taught those two styles almost exclusively, although he did have a couple of Wing Chun students and a couple of other things that he does. He did learn over 10 styles, but he felt spiritually connected to 2 of them, which I believe is the Hung Gar and the mantis. And the reason he didn't teach mantis when I first joined the school is his teacher still had a school open. So he in New York, in Manhattan, Chinatown. So he's like, I'm not going to open a school and compete with my teacher. So when students said, I want to learn the mantis, he might teach them one form, and then he would send them that way. He'd say, go look up Sifu Chulun, which is my Qigong in the mantis style. And then when Chulun retired, later on, got older, and then eventually passed away, then he started focusing like, now I have to carry the mantle. So he really pushed 7-star mantis after that, for the rest of his career.
I get to train with him a little bit.
And for those out there watching Cybersky videos, we're going to have Sifu Carl Albright on this show. We're going to do a whole martial arts kung fu episode and talk about it. And we're going to, get some gems of wisdom from him. He always drops knowledge in his interviews. If you look him up online, Sifu Carl Albright, he doesn't just talk about moves and styles. Like, he drops philosophy and principles of styles that makes you really think and go, man, now I understand more about what it means to do Hungar or Wing Chun or 7-Star Mantis, Bagua and all these different styles. Like, he gives you insights into the strategy and the principles and what were the masters who came before hundreds of years ago, what were they thinking of when they came up with this? Why did they put this into a form, this thing that a lot of people will look at and say, I don't really understand that. Why is that in there? Like, he would give the backstory, and then also his personal life and his story is a great one. So we're going to have him on the show. Subscribe and ring the bell for notifications if you don't want to miss that. And everybody who's watching right now, take a moment to just smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm so that YouTube shows us to more people. But that martial arts background is why I gravitated to. I like Spider-Man because he had the acrobatics. I like Daredevil because he studied with a martial arts teacher, and that's pretty good. And he had the Elektra tie-in also, so that was kung fu. And Captain America, of course, he's the ultimate superhuman. He's
from Brooklyn. Yeah.
He's an athlete. So he
Super
could do
soldier.
Fighting moves. Super soldier, exactly. And there's a nice there's a statue of Captain America in Brooklyn in a couple places.
I still haven't seen that statue. It's like
well, there's
like
one in Prospect Park.
Like, where is it?
There's one in Prospect Park.
Okay.
On one of the entrances on the other side. Maybe
but they just move it around. It's only one statue.
Oh yeah, but they move that. No, because I've seen another one in a mall, and the one in Prospect Park was there at the same time as the one that I saw.
Okay.
It's the one where he says, "I'm just a kid from Brooklyn," right?
Yeah, and he's like standing there with his shield in the air and everything.
And like nerds will tell you, but Captain America really grew up in the Lower East Side in tenements, right? Like he's
in the
not
comics,
from MCU Captain America is from Brooklyn.
Right. Well, I'm claiming him for Brooklyn. I don't care. But I got love for LES. I spent a lot of time in LES in the hip hop scene and all that.
I wanted to ask J-RONIN, your teacher Billy Davis, was that the guy that studied with Bruce Lee?
No. He was a grandmaster in jiu-jitsu and judo and karate, and studied in Japan. And then he trained. He'd also had a black belt with Grandmaster Moses Powell, the whole Sanukas Ryu V-Jitsu family.
Yeah, his name sounds very familiar, and I can't.
Right. He was in Black Heroes of the Martial Arts, the Grandmaster Ron Van Cleef book.
Huh.
And he really was not into the spotlight. He didn't do a lot of interviews, but he was very effective. We used to train at the World Martial Arts Center, which is owned by Grandmaster David Herbert, who's a Grandmaster in Hapkido and a very high rank in Kumite Ryu Jiu-Jitsu as well. They have a school on Atlantic by the Barclays.
No doubt. So shout out to all the traditional martial arts teachers that are trying to keep it alive during this era where people want a quick fix and they just want to learn a couple of jiu-jitsu moves, learn how to punch and kick a couple of ways, and then they don't want to study like a full art and really learn it. So the traditional martial arts schools are struggling right now to attract people that want to put in the work and learn a full art form which has a culture and a history, not only fighting moves, but there's people out there still doing it. And shout out to all the grandmasters and all the students who just are lifelong students like myself. But let's get into this WandaVision.
Yes.
So there's a couple. We're gonna bring people up to date. So apparently, like I said, it started off being a little 50s TV show, and we were all like, "Oh, that's cute." They're kind of telling the story through a 50s TV show. Did any of you realize right away that wasn't the case, or did you, like me, it took an episode or two and then you were like, "Oh, she's doing it"?
Well, I read the background a little bit, so I think that to some extent this is like for if you guys know, like House of M, like Scarlet Witch, Wanda going crazy. So I assume right off the bat it was all some kind of construct that she made. And I think they if you spent time on the internet beforehand, you kind of got immersed in that, and that it became clear that's what it was. So it was cool how they revealed it, but I wasn't necessarily shocked.
Right. Like I said, one has gone nuts, and changed reality many times, resurrected people,
Right.
turned them into living bombs, all kinds of wild stuff.
Made all the mutants disappear.
Right. Because of that, she's actually killed almost as many mutants as the Sentinels. So she's number 2 for killing mutants. Currently in the comics, she's not a mutant. She's a mutate that was experimented on by the high evolutionary. So she's not a mutant currently in the comics. They retconned it, and she's considered. They call her the Great Pretender in on the island of Krakoa, which is the mutant nation island, which is a living sentient being as well.
But Jay, when did you first realize? So did you know from the beginning, like, oh,
Yes,
this is we're in Wanda's world? Because I didn't realize that in the first episode.
Right. Well, I thought about like this.
If I'm going to watch WandaVision, I'm coming expecting her to be in the red suit. Like she wasn't even in the red suit for a few episodes.
Right.
And then the Vision was going back and forth, but I didn't see them flying around as superheroes yet. So I'm like,
right,
what is this they're doing?
In my mind, I saw it like this. Her brother already died. All she had was Vision. Vision died. So she lost her freaking mind. And she created some, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s sitcom world to cope with her loss and her pain.
Right.
And I knew, she's altered reality many times in the comics. They didn't show fully that level of power in the previous movies, but I knew that she's a nut and she's super, super duper powerful. And, I figured as much. I didn't.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I didn't know. They got me. That's what I'll say. They got me. I was watching and I totally was. They did that on purpose, of course. And a lot of people were talking about the show before knowing, about that. And talking about, oh, isn't it cool how it's like a 50s show, whatever. And then little by little, you could see the clues as the episodes went by that she was doing it. And the fact that it was updating each show to, another decade of show, that part was interesting. Went from 50s to 60s, got colorized, went to 70s. Some of the episodes were a shout out to The Office, but not the Office TV show. Interestingly enough, there's like an Easter egg shout out to the Office movie. What is it? Office Space that came out before the show. And some of the introductions where they would play the theme of the show. One of them to me felt like a Friends kind of thing, or if not actually Friends, but that era.
Yeah.
Intro music and show. They were definitely.
It was Malcolm in the Middle. There was Growing Pains, Family Ties.
Ones like Bewitched. Right.
Of course, definitely Bewitched.
Dick Van Dyke.
Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke. That's the first one. Definitely.
Right.
And what's great is in episode 8, you find out why those were the shows that were used in the beginning. The first ones. You find out her backstory a little bit. So let's run through the story. So you knew that Vision was dead, so she must be creating this universe when you first watch episode 1. I didn't, because I didn't know if it was going to follow the comic books or the other Marvel Universe movies.
Well, I didn't know if it was
tied
Plus
into
is all MCU stuff.
Right.
So
but I thought they could deviate and just say we're going left with this. This could be, like you said, a what if. This doesn't have, because they can always throw a what if in there.
But they have a what if show coming later.
Right. So maybe this was a tie into that. And they still could do that next episode. We don't know.
Oh yeah.
And also they always can throw in the multiverse. So I did a rant. If you guys want to check it out, it's like 6 minutes. It's on the channel. It's the video before this one, where I discussed, like, do you think that they're going to say that this is part of the multiverse and this is one version of reality, but there's an alternate version, and that's why Pietro came in the way he did, and and that some things won't line up with the other movies, even though we know she's going to be in Doctor Strange. But
they'll discuss other realities, but I think this is the main MCU
that we're watching,
right? And that they might open the doors for other realities where things happen differently due to time travel, due to Doctor Strange looks at all these different possible outcomes during the Infinity War. By the way, shout out to Blitzkrieg. I saw what you said. She's currently mutate in the comics right now. I wasn't talking about the MCU. I know about all the legal rights, but even in Krakoa now, they're like, oh, she's the Great Pretender. She's like number 2 on the mutant shit list in the comics currently. But they're always retconning stuff and changing the actual plot around.
Right.
It's just hard when you have stories that have been told over like at this point like 60 years, in some cases like 70 years. The writers are just don't want to be weighed down by that, so they just like do something new. And that's often what happens. Apparently, I was reading this week that the whole White Vision thing was due to John Byrne, which is one of the famous writers of like the 80s and 90s, I feel like. And he did She-Hulk for a while, but he hated both those characters, so that was just his way to kind of just like, I guess, get them out of the story, which is it's kind of funny like that, like how some of these things happen. Like Deadpool is supposed to be a ripoff of Deathstroke,
right?
Okay.
So like, and he's just like, he is kind of a blatant ripoff, and then they and then this costume, and then they made his name Wade Wilson, and Deathstroke is Slade Wilson, right?
Right.
But I think they made I think Deadpool was like a pretty cheesy, uninteresting character at first, but they made him this like, fourth wall, like kind of like Groucho Marx of Marvel.
Right.
And I feel like Deadpool is like one of the most untapped characters, because I think they can go like full on like absurdism and like do something really interesting with his character, or like make him like actually like Groucho Marx, where he like just like breaks shit down, and like he I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of potential with Deadpool. And tangent, sorry. And that's not.
I always like Deadpool. I have his early issues. I felt like he was kind of a wacky assassin even early on, but of course they built and developed him, a lot further.
No doubt. But not to cut off the Deadpool conversation, but let's get back into Wanda. All of us are into so many comics that we could wander very easily. So it is that Vision is dead, and then we open up with episode 1 that he's alive and they're in the living room, and so we had that episode, and each episode we start to realize a little bit more that this is not what it seems. Of course, Vision starts to question it himself.
And he's not even the physical Vision that we've seen in the other movies.
Right. And he's
one that's created only in that world.
Okay. So you mean when he's in his full color Vision suit, or you mean the
Vision in Wanda's hex, in her dome of reality that she created in what's the name of the town? Westview,
New Jersey, which is a real town too. That's right.
Okay. The Vision in Westview, she created out of thin air.
Okay.
There's a whole nother.
But we don't know that in the first episode.
No, they showed it. They showed it at the end of this last episode.
Right. No, and I'm saying episode 1 and 2, we didn't know that.
So
we didn't know that at the end. Right.
We realize now everything.
Right. So Sword has the physical Vision, who's become the White Vision now, who's been turned on by a Stark drone that was energized by Wanda's powers.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know what's happening with that. But the Vision that's been in the show the whole time was one that she created from nothing.
Right.
So that might still be his personality. And at some point in the comics, they merge the White Vision with his previous memory. So maybe they'll do that by the end. We'll see.
So going ahead in the timeline, so season 2, season 3, and moving on, the Vision starts to question, why don't I remember anything about my life before right now? So the first time that I noticed that, tell me if you remember one earlier than that, is when the boss came over for dinner, which I think was the 50s episode, right? Is that episode 1?
Yeah. That's
So he said his boss's wife says, so tell us all about you. What did you do before you came here, and how did you guys meet and get married, and why don't you have children? Right. So I threw that in there, a lot of little sitcom-y one-liner jokes. And then he's like, and they're silent. And then he's like, Wanda? And she's like, well, we and they're just, because they're trying to think of it right now.
They're just making it up as they go along.
So that's when you start to realize, like, why doesn't Vision know that? So then, I start to realize that. But I still held out that maybe she did resurrect him. So that was still an option back then. I didn't know
she did.
for sure.
Only
she created a new Vision, a fictional, like, I'm just going to make a new Vision to be with me. No, I thought that she took, I think they hinted at it. I think one of the Sword characters, maybe the director of Sword said that she took Vision, which was not true. That was a lie
Right,
that
that was a lie,
in
yeah.
there to mislead us, to make us now think that she collected the body, somehow reanimated it, and that's what we're looking at.
Right. And
And
who is he?
this is a spoiler if you didn't watch episode 8. That's not the case. That was a lie,
Right.
and they debunked that. So
He tries to put things in her head, though. So I feel like he might be Mephisto. He might be
he does seem to have his own.
Cathan,
Yeah, he does seem to have his own
or he could be
consciousness.
working with Dormammu, who they had in Doctor Strange.
Right.
I don't know if they're gonna have new demonic, evil, other dimensional beings or not. They've already had Dormammu. They might not have Mephisto or a Cathan. They've mentioned Cyttorak, but
And
Cyttorak,
also Nightmare, right? Also Nightmare.
yeah, Nightmare could be Nightmare.
Which is what I think it is, actually. If there's, I think there is a big bad for sure, and I think I hope it's not Mephisto. Personally, I don't want the devil. I think that's just too much, and like it'll just weigh on the story, it'll confuse people who are like, is he? Because he's
But
not.
he was involved a lot with WandaVision's story, though.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I know he has. Right, he's the one who helped made up the Suns, right?
Right.
Billy and
Took a piece of his soul, right, to create them.
Yeah. I just don't want the devil. I think it's just too much.
Yeah. I'll
If
tell
you
you one
look at
thing,
the
it's not
artwork-
Cyttorak, because Cyttorak is very obvious. He's another demonic creature. He's the one that empowers Juggernaut.
Okay.
And Doctor Strange uses the Crimson Bands of Cyttorak. That's one of his big spells. So you know he's like obviously part of the MCU, but he's very obvious, and he just likes to blow stuff up and break things and get people killed. He's not as devious as a Nightmare or a Mephisto.
Right.
Well, if you look at the let me add this to the stream. If you look at the artwork that I made, I try to fit. It was too many possibilities. I wanted to include all the characters. I had Wanda, she's biggest. Of course, I had to have the Vision in there, right? I have Rambo, and Agatha, and then I try to add. So some people have been saying that they predict that either one of these people is behind it, or one of these people is going to be called in to save the day. And that is just like we didn't know Agatha. We didn't know who she was at first. You know, when she first appeared, her other name, what was it, Agnes? People were like, oh, maybe that's really Agatha, whatever. But
Yeah,
we didn't know she was manipulating things to the extent that she was.
it was Agatha all along.
Right. And then episode 7 made us think that she was controlling the whole world and, you know, the whole Westview, you know, and was somehow manipulating everything. But actually now we know that she wasn't. But that at first we thought that was it, the final explanation. Now people have said possibly Doctor Strange, and that was my guess. And I kind of want it to be Doctor Strange because I'm a Doctor Strange fan. I don't really care about Mephisto. Reed Richards, cool, Fantastic Four, but I'm not really all that much into that, although I did read the comics. The movies disappointed me, and we won't sidetrack into that. But it is a possibility. There's a few people that could be called in. You said Mephisto might be behind Vision, right? Animated, but there's people who could be called in to try to help Wanda, because it's a tricky situation. Wanda's a dynamic character. She's not a good guy. She's not a bad guy. She was previously a Russian spy or something. Now she's part of the Avengers, but or she's in that story.
She's Hydra.
At least she's married to an Avenger. Is she an official Avenger?
Yes. She's been an
Avenger.
Because I didn't know, because sometimes they just have people helping, adding on. But all right, so she's in the Avengers. But her personality is conflicted, like anyone's, and someone that comes in has to both be able to beat her, but it's not going to be a superhero fight with a killer because she's still not a bad guy, and they've got to somehow help her mentally, spiritually, break her from whatever. If she's got a spell on her, they've got to get her out of that. If she's got super depression that's causing her to do all these things, they got to help her with that. Besides the powers structure, that that's also in there. So I feel that that's Doc Strange, but it also could be Reed Richards, and also Reed Richards is an engineer. People that I've spoken to over the week were saying like, well, he knows all the science of Vision, like he could understand robotics and engineering, so he could help in that way. besides he has powers that could help protect him from battles and stuff if they get
They
into
haven't
it.
incorporated him yet into the MCU.
Right. So I don't think they will, but since they threw Patrio in there, it's like you never know. They could just be trying to tie.
They can do anything. We don't know what they're gonna do.
And just for those of you out there who don't understand this aspect of it, so Marvel sold rights to different movie companies back in the day, and so X-Men was owned by a different company, and Fantastic Four came out with it from a different company originally. Then they started to acquire back either the contracts expired or they bought it back of different characters and movies. So now they have X-Men back. So they don't own the old X-Men's because that was done by another movie, but they have the rights to the character. They can now continue the X-Men story, bring in those actors, those characters. It's not proprietary anymore. They return to ownership of that copyright, I guess. And now they also have Fantastic Four 2. And I believe they did a Fantastic Four movie, Marvel, right? One of them was Marvel.
Not yet.
Are they working?
It's already. I think they've started talking about it and make like it's going to happen.
Okay, so that's just been a little internet chatter. So anyway, that's why they might want to involve Reed Richards. I also speculated Professor X, but I couldn't fit any more heads onto this thumbnail. It was getting too crowded as it is.
I will say one thing: the next Doctor Strange movie does deal a lot with Wanda. So and I did read that they're going to involve Doctor Strange.
Do you think we'll see him in the next episode?
I think most likely we'll see Doctor Strange and either Mephisto, Nightmare, Chthon. One of those three is the big bad.
No doubt. Let me big up the comment section right now. Mike Prodigy, salute. Jason.
That's R. Hendricks, I believe. Shout out to him.
A word.
Shout out to MC video director.
No doubt. LR Blitzkrieg, of course. MCMI in the building. Who else is adding in some things? Well, IE, that's all they put. IE says Vision is gone, Jarvis is gone. That means the Vision's body and voice will be Ultron. That's exactly why we saw James Spader in the cast. And then he clarifies, I mean, the White Vision will be Ultron. So it's talking about the one that was resurrected.
Maybe have Ultron's voice,
or
actually be Ultron. Ultron,
like inserted into it. The way the old Vision came from Jarvis, right? And so did Ultron, right?
Somehow Ultron in the comics has come back so many times. Ultron's consciousness has, backed itself up in different ways and taken over. It's like
a computer file; you can never delete it fully, right? It's always recovered.
Right. But he's taken over, multiple planets and done all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of like Brainiac in a way, right?
Yeah.
Like he does have that capacity. I love James Spader as the voice of Ultron, and I wouldn't mind seeing him. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, just because I think he's fun. He's because he does a good job of like in terms of that movie has its flaws too, but he does a good job of like being like the dark side Tony Stark, right? And he's got the same kind of witty repartee and like back and forth. He's just evil and has a god complex.
Right. Now, my wife chimed in because I mentioned her, so she got in on the chat about how she kind of wasn't going to watch after episode 3 because she was like, "Oh, that's cute, the TV show thing." But I don't know if you're able to type in the chat whether you read Scarlet Witch or Avengers comics that had Scarlet Witch or Vision back in the day. But she says I couldn't take it. WandaVision was going to be a sitcom. Brilliant intro, but but then. We watched episode 4 anyway. I convinced, come on, let's just watch the next episode. And then she ended up loving it, and she's totally hooked. And this is both of our favorite show right now. We can't wait till Friday.
Amazing. It was a slow burn, but it was so worth it. A lot of people, I've told them, they make sure you get this episode 4, and you'll be hooked from then on.
Definitely. You got to get through that. But you can't skip either, because then you won't get those decade episodes of the sitcom.
Right.
And let's also shout out the commercials. Like at first you think, oh, they put cute commercials for products like that they would have advertised in the 50s or 60s or 70s. And it is that, but it's also each commercial has Easter eggs in it.
It's a trauma.
You're shaking your head. Do you remember one of them?
There's a few of them. The toaster that's flashing. That's the Stark bomb that she used her hex powers as a child to stop it from blowing up and killing her and her brother. And there was the cleanup.
What was that? I forget. There was a reference to something.
That was when she.
I caught them all. I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
When Crossbones was going to blow up, and she shot him up into the air and he blew up the building in Africa. So they mentioned that. And
those of you, if you're watching live, go in the chat and tell us if there's some more.
Lagos, thank you, Lagos. Yes,
Lagos. Yeah, they mentioned Lagos. They do. You're right. I do, and that I remember now.
If you're watching,
there's just so many Easter eggs. I think it's hard to keep like throughout the whole episode. I'm like, there's like what I'm looking forward to when this is over is watching some of these Easter eggs.
The paper towel brand. Thank you.
Right, IE, yeah.
What was the brand?
I think the brand of the paper towel was Lagos, and it wiped up all the red liquid, the blood. You know, all those people died in Lagos. I mean, more people probably would have died if she didn't send him up into the air. But
so now,
Captain America would have died if she didn't do that. And if Captain America dies, all those lives that Captain America saves are also dead, right? I always remember that because Captain America said, "No, it was my fault because I got blubbery when Crossbones mentioned Bucky." Right. So it's like, you know, that's the thing about these things. Like, people are going to die when superheroes try to save lives. And it's like, who do you assign blame to, right? And like, it was like, that was interesting when he said that. They never really the Wanda's blame for it is like kind of been like the main story and the main thing. But like, Captain America does say, no, it's my fault. Now, that's what a leader does, right? So maybe he was just doing that. But at the same time, he has a point, right? Like,
she needed more training, though.
Slipped.
Like a better trained Wanda could have put a hex around him, and just compressed it and blown up inside that.
Right.
Like, she easily could have, solved that.
Yeah, she's young, right? You think you can't like I mean, it's terrible what happened and that like the 7 or 8 Wakandans died, but I think
it was more than that.
It wasn't really. I feel like it
wasn't Wakandans. It was in Lagos.
You know, they were in Lagos, but there was a Wakandan like delegation.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was like a Wakandan like delegation. That's why King T'Chaka was so upset, and that's why he was one of the ones who pushed the Sokovian Accords because of what happened to his countrymen.
And honestly, like in the comics, Captain America would have had her training and helped her figure out her powers and what can you do, do for damage control. I think I feel like they don't show enough of that. Because the Avengers were very much about the Avengers and the X-Men. The X-Men had the Danger Room, but the Avengers also had their own Danger Room type thing. Training with robots and
and they would like also do the thing where like some of the older Avengers would be like mentors, like Captain America is Falcon's mentor, right? They would take people under their wing in pre-Civil War. Like Spider-Man became like Tony Stark's mentee, which they showed in the MCU.
Right.
I love that aspect of it when they show them training.
Which is weird because Spider-Man's a vet by then. Like,
which is kind of weird.
You should be mentoring other people, come on.
Well, that
was like they kind of aged him down a little bit. And
in the movies,
early 20s again.
Irfan, you said that these comic stories have been out for 60 years, some of them, right? And that's the thing. So when they make the movies, they always have to play with it because let's say the movie came out in like 97. They're going to make it's supposed to always be happening now. It's in present time. So the cars, the clothes, the culture of New York or wherever the hero lives in is going to be of 97 or the 90s. And then let's say the movie came out 2015. It's going to be, he can't be like 47 and just got out of high school. So they got to play with the years.
Right.
Like they want them to be a teen. Like for instance, the new Spider-Mans that are all coming out are like teenagers to 20.
Yeah, they got to retcon the years.
Because that's how Spider-Man was when he first came out and got his powers. And that's what the story that they're retelling. But last time they told that story, it was the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And, and now it's 2020, 2021. So
I remember Spider-Man's 30th birthday in the comics though.
Years and if someone makes a timeline, and I'm sure at Marvel, they've got like scientists working on this, like literally like I'm joking, but the people who are writers have to create these timelines and they've got to fit it in and but Iron Man wasn't, but he left Earth that year to fight such and such. And that's when the Hulk was on the asteroid and they've got to make sure that they're not tripping over their own story because they're trying to create a cohesive universe.
And Iron Man's with different bodies and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, Iron Man's been de-aged. Magneto's been de-aged more than once.
So shout out to IE. He said another commercial was the Nexus pills. Yes, Nexus.
Right.
He says as in a multiverse, but actually I saw a comment somewhere else I think on a
Scarlet Witch is a
Facebook chat
Nexus being that exists in all realities.
that there's another thing called Nexus also. I'm not familiar with it
Yeah,
myself.
I didn't know that reference actually. I
In
was
Marvel
like, what
Comics.
is? And I thought
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was like a multiversal reference.
Right.
It is, but they
said
actually
that,
use
right.
that
It's a
phrase in
Nexus
comic books
being.
before. It's in the MCU.
Right. Wanda exists in different realities. You might not see the same being, but Wanda is in every
In fact,
version
someone
of the
who's listening
multiverse.
live, if you could go open a tab and do a Google search on Nexus and WandaVision, because there's a deeper explanation. I'm not remembering it right now.
I just broke it down.
No, I know you broke it down conceptually, but somebody told me that there is something called the Nexus of blah blah blah. It's like a specific thing in Marvel Comics. There are Nexus places and people, as Jason says. Yeah,
Right.
no doubt. So this is why I have guests on the show, because I'm not going to remember all the details, and I've read certain comics, not others, and then my guests have different comic book backgrounds and also movies that are their favorites. So, and also there's so much denseness packed into these episodes. Each episode is pretty short. They're not even a full hour.
I wish they were an hour.
Me too, for sure.
Sometimes the best shows are ones that have been like 28 minutes, 48 minutes, and every week you're wanting, they leave you hanging.
Right.
But so I really thank my guests for being here today. Now, I want to point out that the prediction video or the rant video that I did before this one, I made a couple of statements of things that I thought might be true, and I was correct on a couple of them, and some of them we still don't know. So first of all, I was talking about the chaos magic and what I explained it to be, and they hadn't mentioned that. Like, you see her shooting these red balls of energy from her hands, and you see different powers that she has, like a witch, going thing, and something just appears. But so I think people who didn't understand the Scarlet Witch character in comic books, they probably came into it and think that she's like Captain Marvel. She just has some kind of cosmic powers, or she can just do anything, or she's just a sorcerer like Doctor Strange. But actually, her power is very specific. The chaos magic, basically, she manipulates probability. And what I said in the last video is, let's say she's fighting someone. She could make a meteor come out of the sky and land on them. And you would think that she's using telekinesis to pull a meteor down, or somehow that's her power. But no, it's that there was a 1 in 16 trillion chance that a meteor would happen to fall. It's probably way bigger than that. Right at that moment, in the laws of probability, they do fall, but what's the chances they would fall right in that spot, right at that second, and hit the person she's fighting, right? So she's manipulating the laws of probability. She's got some kind of power tied in with mathematics, which is cool, because kids are reading about this and they think about engineering and math and metaphysics, things like that, and probability. So that's everything that she's been doing has been that. So when she makes the pots fly around in the kitchen, that's impossible, right? Or is it just very, very...
Well, she has more powers than just that. That's the thing.
Right.
So you can tell us some of her other powers, but I just want to point out that I said the chaos magic, and I talked about that. And then they actually, I think someone said it in episode 8, right? I heard the phrase chaos magic.
Right.
Wait, she says that in
someone was explaining
Agatha Harkness says that at the end of the episode.
Right.
She's a Scarlet Witch.
Yes, she's a Scarlet Witch. She also, in the comics, she's which is interesting, because in the comics she just has like broad reality-based reality warping powers. Like, it's interesting that they made her like use the time stone, or the mind stone is what created her, because she would be like more similar to the reality stone. Like, she could just alter reality at will, right? And that's what she does in a lot of the comic books. And she's a mutant in the comic books. And so if they merge with X-Men, I wonder if she's going to become a mutant. And the other interesting thing would be she would become, or what she's originally supposed to be, was Magneto's daughter, right? So I wonder if that
Magneto is another person they said might tie in. Sorry to cut you off. That's another prediction that I've heard during the week. So I don't know what you guys think about that. But go ahead, continue.
No, I'm just wondering if that's going to happen, because I'm wondering first if I don't know if they'll finish the story and explanations about like how these realities merge in just one more episode, but if they do, like, essentially she might become, or she might re-become Magneto's daughter, which I always liked that aspect about her character, because they had this like her and Quicksilver were estranged from their father, and then there was a back and forth, and then he turned them into, like, they were bad guys initially.
They were in the Brotherhood of Mutants, and then they became Avengers.
Right, and then they became Avengers. So it's interesting to think about.
And
like, do you think that they're going to do that? Do you think they'll make her Magneto's daughter again and a mutant?
I mean, I think she is Magneto's daughter. I don't think they would make her. They just haven't talked about it much. But
there's also realities. I'm sorry.
Is there something that prevents that?
They keep changing the her origins in the comics.
Yeah.
So currently, she's not Magneto's daughter, I believe.
Okay.
No, she's not. Right. In
Only
the comics,
Polaris.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Initially she was right.
Right.
They changed it recently. I think because I don't know why they changed it, because I feel like they just wanted to match the MCU or something.
I think they do that. Yeah.
She's a really interesting character, and I think that if they merge the realities and have mutants back, it would be interesting to see her be Magneto's daughter, and fighting her father, right, would be kind of cool.
Right. So LR Blitzkrieg clarifies she only became a mutate because at the time Marvel didn't have the rights to the term.
Exactly.
See, when Marvel, and this is another thing that I find these legal cases fascinating, and this copyright law and rights and movies, because you see, like Stan Lee's and came up with all of this, and then there's different writers on the comics, and it was a comic book.
Kirby too.
So now when it got into movies,
more Jack Kirby
shows, and Jack Kirby, it's changed so much, and a lot of it has to do with we need money, so we're going to sell the rights to this company for now, but then later your company gets bigger. Now you want to produce a movie, but they own your character,
right?
That you want to come into this movie.
If you remember, they took Fantastic Four out of the comics for a couple of years,
right?
Just because they
didn't have the rights. That's mind-boggling.
I mean, they had the rights to the comics. They're like, you know what? We're not going to even promote this brand right now, Marvel,
because they can't put out a movie. So let's just let them run with it.
That was crazy to me, but yeah.
And a lot of there's a rumor that.
Well, it is.
X-Men was really bad, or X-Men were really mistreated, I guess. Like there was Avengers vs. X-Men where they lost, and there was like a lot of like horrible things happening to X-Men, and people said that they were doing that because they wanted to minimize X-Men. They were trying to promote it.
They were trying to kill off all mutants, and they were actually changing every superhero's explanation, and that's where Blitzkrieg is saying to other things. Either it was a mutate, or there was some chemical accident, or they got their powers from an alien. They were like, we got to get it away from these mutants thing because we don't own that. And so that's very interesting. But now they do own it back again. And so will they slickly just merge it back in and be like, oh, yeah, everyone's mutants again? Hey, we've got another special guest joining us who's like a super comic book head. This man is an MC, a poet. He's got albums and mixtapes out. He hosts shows. He used to host shows live pre-COVID all the time, promoting other artists and hosting at venues and, really nurturing talent. And now he's actually done that a few times digitally over the Zoom platforms and over different live streams of shows. And he started his own podcast recently. He had one season of this podcast. It's a really good podcast. It's called X Marks the Black Podcast. We're going to bring him on right now. He is our friend MCMI in the building, the MarXman, also known as Mark Gilks. But Mark,
what's up, gentlemen? How you guys doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming through. We need some more comic book expertise. I don't know how much of the show you've fought. I know you were on the way from somewhere else, but
I heard that Blitz was there as a consultant, so I know you guys.
He's been in the chat helping us out, and a few other people have been throwing in their tidbits. Definitely. So basically, we're not up to it yet. I put it on the ticker at the bottom. How will it end? Into predictions. We're not quite there yet, but we are getting into like right now. We were talking about the whole copyright issue where Wanda was a mutate because they didn't own mutants at the time, and now they're going. Is she a mutant now and stuff like that? Is she going to be Magneto's daughter? These are important things because the next episode they have to reveal as much as they can. They'll probably leave us some cliffhangers because they're going to do a season 2. I'm sure it's a huge hit show now. So
actually, they said they're not on the table just yet.
And Wanda's in the Doctor Strange movie as a main character,
right?
So they're gonna get to that, I believe, in this next episode.
I suspect they'll be in a show again, but I don't know if it's going to be like WandaVision. It might actually be like an altogether different show, like a few years down the road. But it's going to be weird because all these movies are coming out. So we don't know what's going to happen with like season 2. I think certain shows, like I think Moon Knight will get a season 2. Some shows I'm not sure about getting a season 2.
Well, hang on just a second because the three of us have given our credentials, our nerd cred. our comic book history.
Oh wow.
And we've all been reading comic books since single digit age, right? Am I stretching it? Okay. And we talked
Same
about
here.
which comic books were our favorites and why we related to those characters a little bit, and whether or not we have any comic books now. I sadly do not. J-RONIN has thousands. Tell us a little bit about your introduction into the comic books. You know, like Jay said, his parents actually read him comic books. That's awesome. I got into
Oh
them my own
wow.
around 9 years old. So tell us your history and what your favorite,
That's dope to hear.
related characters are, just in general, outside of Wanda and Vision, and then we'll get back into this prediction.
Yeah. Well, I'm the youngest of 3 boys, so I had the benefit of having 2 older brothers. One was into music, so I stole his music. Other was into comics, and I stole his comics. I was I was blessed to have just access. So
Nice.
he bought. He was a Marvel head. Primarily he did his DC thing, and he had the Watchmen, and he enabled me to really expand my horizons as a child, reading things like we shouldn't have been reading. That goes. But that really opened me up. But X-Men has always been my favorite. I mean, my stage name is the MarXman for a reason.
Yeah,
I've always been fascinated with the X-Men as my favorite characters of all time.
Right.
So those that's really kind of
And
why
you have
started.
a mixtape where you use like an X-Men.
Yeah,
You
I
had
mean,
Days of Futures Past that we put out on MCMI Records, right?
yeah, 2014. Yeah, MCMI definitely helped me with that, and that was a project that reflected the movie that came out. So it was just a cool time to go back in the past and do things for the future. It was a cool, time to flip it. So yeah, I mean, I'm a nerd to the core, man. It's everything. It's a huge part of what motivates me as a creative.
To pull up that
Yeah.
cover if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Let me pull this up. Is this from Bandcamp? Let me see. Oh yeah, I'm gonna shout that out. But continue telling us, like, what are some other titles and comics that were your favorites?
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge fan of, if we're talking about comics, I like Batman on the DC side. I could definitely go into Jim Lee's run from beginning to end. I'm a huge art fan as well because I used to draw. So I wasn't only following the writing, but I was following certain artists.
Right.
John Romita, Joe,
Jim Lee is one of the greatest.
Joe Mad. Yeah, I mean, Jim Lee just is the
50%.
quintessential artist. This is, if you see, as much of a fan as I am, my boy Will Pope did that graphic, and I wanted like a comic book version of what I would look like, and he kind of delivered
Look at
that.
the locks shooting off.
You're a
Man.
superhero.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And back then, my locks were that long. My locks were really, really long back then. So that was definitely cool. But yeah, aside from X-Men titles, I enjoy Batman titles. I enjoy the newer Batman titles with John, his son, and Damian did a nice run together. Where they did this really beautiful series where they kind of melded their joint forces. That had a nice, cool run. But I just like kind of did it back from Marvel to DC. But yeah,
I read
I'm
DC
random.
as well.
Hey, I don't know if
I'm
you guys
random.
hear it. I'm hearing a little clipping on MarXman's mic. Are you guys hearing
A
that?
little bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm hearing it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not terrible though.
I don't know if it's volume or the connection or what it is, but
I could take my earphones
Little
out
mic.
because I kind of think it might be that. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
then you
Try
won't be able to
using
hear us, right?
No, try using the internal mic. It'll sound fine.
Yeah, but then he might not hear it. Well, if he puts his volume up, I guess.
Yeah. No, you put his volume up. Cool.
So
Is that
welcome
better?
to the show, MarXman. Tell us some things that you feel about WandaVision. One question I asked the panel is, did you come into episode 1 and watch it and immediately know that this is a creation of Wanda because Vision's dead? So that's not him. There's something going on. Or like me, were you totally fooled and just like, well, they're doing some what if, what do they call that? Guest editors month. Remember assistant editors month? I'm saying it wrong. Where they would like have a different editor of a comic book and they would do something goofy and use different artwork and stuff, and do something that would never happen. So I'm thinking like, this is kind of like the producer of the show. The producers are like, oh, let's do this like TV thing. It'll be kind of cool, like an artsy thing to do this.
Like
and I thought they were
Elseworlds
just
in
gonna
DC
tell
or
the
whatever.
story. They were just going to tell the story through a 50s sitcom. And then as it changed each episode, I started to catch on, like, oh, and then eventually realized she's doing this, as they went back and forth to Sword, I realized what's going on. So were you fooled, or did you already know? Like these guys, they knew. They were like, nah, I knew because I know the whole story.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't up on it like that.
I have a feeling these guys. I have a feeling these guys kind of read up on their stuff. I knew because I've anticipated this. If you listen to my podcast, I was shouting this out last year. You know what I mean? Like I've known for a long time since they announced it, because I keep in contact with their announcement. So if they're announcing what WandaVision is going to be, if they're announcing it to the public, wow. I'm one of the few that wants to hear that news. So I knew that it was something that was going to pay ode to television. I knew it was something that was set in this time period after Endgame. So everything else is kind of just speculatory. And, I knew Tiana Paris was in it. So we knew that Monica Rambeau was in, so you kind of have the building blocks of what and then everything else is just a mystery.
I hope we get to see
I love Monica's character. By the way.
Oh my God, yeah, that's mine.
I always loved Monica. As a kid, she was the leader of the Avengers in the 80s for quite a while.
Yeah.
And she was the first woman Captain Marvel for 10 years.
Right, that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Back when Carol Danvers was Miss Marvel.
Yep. Yeah.
And so and I grew up on the original Captain Marvel. We call him Shazam now. My father was his favorite character, and my father had all kinds of stuff from the 50s and 60s that his mother threw out. That's worth millions of dollars.
Oh
now.
No!
Yeah.
Oh no, that's so terrible.
Like original old school DC stuff from the late 40s to like the late 50s.
So bad.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's
like
rough.
First appearance of like Black Adam and Captain Marvel Jr. and Marvel, all that stuff that's worth a lot now.
Yeah. But a lot of people have stories like that, whether it's their parents, a flood, a fire.
A lot of moms throw away some comic books. A lot of moms
man. That's my mom. She threw away nothing except for my Dungeons and Dragons power tricycle.
And I gave away a lot of my comic books because I collected them for a while, and they had like these big boxes. And then I was like, I'm not into, at the time, I was just into reading them. I just love the story. I wasn't like a collector. Now my brother was more of a collector. He bought cardboards and plastic sleeves to slide them in and keep certain ones mint. And so I'm familiar with the culture. It's very similar to baseball cards, where if you go to your friend, he's got a huge box of baseball cards. There's like 1,000 in there, but there's like 50 that are worth super amounts of money. If you play cards, you want to win that card that's valuable. If you trade comic books or you buy comics, So my brother used to go to comic book stores or individual, sellers and collectors, and they would sell a box. It'd be like, oh, this whole box is 100 comics for $25 or whatever. But you'd sit there and you'd, just like vinyl collectors too, you'd pull out each one and you'd be like, okay. And you want to see, is this really worth $100? And sometimes you'd get a come up where you'd be like, oh, it has this issue. That's a mad valuable. That's like the first Power Man Iron Fist. Another comic, one of my favorites because of the Iron Fist and the martial arts. We talked about that. So, like at some point I gave my comics, I gave some of them to him. I was like, I don't care. You take them. He put them in his collection. It got bigger. He started buying up and trading with other people, and he amassed a huge amount of comic books, which I think later in life, like in his 40s, he did end up selling them. But
I gotta say one thing. Anybody could go online now and buy this issue or this, and to me, it's all about digging in the crates or digging in the bins, whether it's vinyl or comics, going to flea markets, going to record stores or comic stores where they don't really know what they have like that, and digging through and finding these great finds. That's what I love. Sure. We're older. We got money now. We can pay $100, $200, $300 for a comic if we want to.
Right.
But to me,
it was our allowance. Our parents gave us like $12 and we had to buy pizza, and then we could afford a comic book and play a video game. Remember that?
Sure. Yeah. My father collected certain things, and I collected comics. So I'd be just going comics and records, No doubt. Just finding to me, it's all about finding those rare finds for 25 cents, $1. You go somewhere, everything's $1, and this one's worth $300. Oh, this one's, I just wanted to say that, because some people are just
So LR Blitzkrieg was coaching us in the comments. He was giving us, some.
Why is he not in
backstory
here,
info.
by the way?
But that's what I was about to say. So he must have been, on the way home from work or something. So now
Okay.
he's about to jump in the stream.
There we go.
Let's bring him
Yay.
on in. This is my partner in MCMI Incorporated, which includes MCMI Records. We have a website. By the way, if anyone went to mcmireport.com recently and it's not there, we took it down. We're redoing the site. We're going to relaunch it in a couple of weeks. It's going to be beautiful. But I'm about to bring him on. I see he's in the waiting room, but he actually stepped away for a
And then
second.
went to high school with his
Intro
little
and he
brother.
gets up. Nah, so this man is an MC. He is part of MCMI Records and all that. We've done events for years, and he is a crazy comic book head. And more than me, he collects action figures as well. And so I wonder, he might have something to tell us about that. But he definitely has been following WandaVision. Let's bring him on in, ladies and gentlemen. LR Blitzkrieg, and he's got a comic in his hand.
Oh, you
What's the cover? What do you mean?
Oh, hello there. How are you gentlemen today?
We're chilling.
Show us what you're reading. Hold it up. What are you reading?
Oh, nice shirt. Nice. I love the shirt.
It was a prop.
Oh, okay.
I just pulled out this Earth X Marvel comic book. It's really dope. If you haven't
Okay.
read that.
Nice. All right.
But on my desk, I was telling MarXman about this yesterday. I went through. I had these little boxes full of cards that I was on YouTube yesterday, and there just happened to be these videos talking about how valuable a lot of the old Marvel cards were. So I was like, I have those, and they weren't played with. They were, in their boxes. So nice. I started going through them, and then I called Carlos from Carlos, one of the owners of Fat Buddha, and I was like, "Yo, can you help me get these appraised?" He's like, "Yeah, Monday, let's do it." So now I have to sort through all of these cards. So I'll show you guys.
Nice. I used to have the cards, but I lost them all.
This is actually an 87 Captain Marvel right there. That's Monica Rambeau, very old.
Hell yeah.
1987. This Spider-Man, this Cosmic Spider-Man right here is supposedly worth like $2,000, and I have 3 of them, so we'll see.
Blitz,
Do you have the holograms?
Put it back up again.
I do have some holograms, yeah.
Oh, the Monica.
Series 1.
Oh, Rambo.
The
other corner, the other one.
This is great.
So that image I actually used in my last. I actually took that, removed the yellow background, and I put that up on the screen on the video before this one on WandaVision.
Nice.
Here's a really old 87 Quicksilver.
Yeah. I love it.
Since we're talking about these specific characters, right? Old Magneto.
Yeah.
Suit on.
That's all the first series, right?
Mephisto. This is before the first. So there's series 1, which was 1990, I believe.
Okay.
And these are 87. So these before they,
Yeah.
Yo, I feel like this is a good opportunity to shout out Destroy, because he has a show called Show Off Your Gems, where he interviews people, and all they do for his entire show for like an hour is pull out and show their collectibles and pull it up and show it on the screen, talk about the stories. Shout out to him. He was on the first episode. It's actually called episode -1. I see Jay.
My God,
Let me full screen you. Keep it up.
Yeah, the Defenders. Hell yeah.
I got a few things to show you guys real quick.
No doubt. Show Off Your Gems, and shout out to Destroy, and go check them out on Instagram and YouTube. It's called Show
Ray Bill.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, there he is.
Let's take it back to the 60s. Thor fighting the Viet Cong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Original Stan Lee stuff.
Oh, he got some gems.
I'm hold on. This is all.
That's worth a lot of money.
I know.
Yo, y'all got
I
that.
hope you have good security in your house. Just
Oh yeah,
FYI.
I got a lot of guns. Captain Marvel against Ronan the Accuser.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, Ronin. Hell yeah.
Is that a cherished comic book because it has your name?
Oh yeah, New Mutants.
Rob Liefeld.
The first appearance of the real Domino.
Oh yeah.
Wow, someone mentioned Domino in the chat too.
Snake Eyes and Storm
Jason.
Shadow.
Okay. Yeah, Marvel did G.I. Joe.
And Hulk went nuts. And all the Avengers that take him down.
Yeah, I have a ton of those that you showed. Quite a few of those. Nice. I'm like, oh yeah, I got that one.
I just got a few.
Yo, you got some gems, bro.
Some Jim Lee. Some X-Men Jim Lee.
That's a classic.
Captain America going nuts with the Uzi.
Do you have anything that has Wanda or Vision on it? handy?
Hold
It's
on.
not in front of you. That's cool.
Oh,
But if you do, that would be really awesome.
Hold on. Profit. I was talking about Shazam.
Yep.
What?
Nice. Wow. How old is that?
That looks
70s to 70s stuff.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, that
Hold
Shazam looked like it was from the 50s.
These comic books came out way before J-RONIN was born, so he had to dig for this. And this is what we were talking about. The culture of digging in the crates for DJs is just like that for comic heads too.
Hell yeah.
Cage. Hold
Luke
on.
Cage.
Talk about the gray and green Hulk.
Yes.
Yeah, my brother had that one. I
That is a
read that.
legendary comic book right there.
That was right before Hulk 300, I think, where they merged.
Yeah,
Before we knew he was a symbiote, the black Spider-Man
Yep.
suit.
After Secret Wars.
Out. So this is authentic
Weapon
discussion
X.
right here. Oh, this big guy.
Yeah.
I got that whole run. Hold on. Saber.
All right, Roland, that's enough. Let's talk.
I can't find no one stuff. All right.
He has some stuff. I don't know who to
That's
ride.
what we used to say. We
That's
used to say, back to the show.
On the show, I ain't
It's a nice panel now, and I have to say that because the way I hooked up the background art, it looks like Vision is on the panel with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
So there's a
Vision
lot
is
of
always with us, right?
there's gonna be
Always
thousands
with
of,
us.
there's gonna be thousands of WandaVision podcasts and discussions and spoilers and stuff, but
Funny
none of
you
them have
should say
Vision.
that.
We got Vision.
Funny you should say that because me and MarXman have one later on tonight.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
And I heard you talking about it before too.
Yeah, we've done
what time
how many shows now, Mark? 4?
4?
Yeah, I think we did.
Nice.
So we'll be doing one tonight. We were supposed to do it yesterday, but we didn't.
Is that on Instagram or what is that?
Yeah,
on?
on IG.
On IG.
Okay, so
The
you
best
guys
thing.
can see their Instagram, so follow them.
Yes.
So I love the intersection of like hip hop and like comics because like I feel like I'm really fascinated by like when hip hop became nerdy. I think like Wu-Tang probably with the kung fu movies, but like
way before that,
really strong.
Way before
It was
that.
big. It was big.
So
Daddy Kane got his name from Kung Fu. Kane.
Oh,
know?
okay, all right, fair, yeah. That's
It's been there.
yeah, I mean, I think it's always been that dual thing of like MCs and artists in hip hop wanting to be larger than life and superheroes and
Sure.
Having these fantastical names and you look at super rhymes, you know what I mean? Like
That was right from the beginning. Yeah.
Jimmy Spicer, like all of that stuff. It's always been like to make
Some
us
beef.
seem like we have alter egos, it's
Sure,
always been incorporated in there since the inception.
I just
But-
remembered
but-
on Wu-Tang's
The
first
Last
single.
Emperor. He did a song called Secret Wars Part 1 and 2. You guys know that?
Yep.
That
And I
that's
just
so much fun.
remembered. Sorry, I just remembered Wu-Tang "Protect Your Neck," one of their first joints. Swinging through your hood like you never heard Spider-Man.
Well, that's even.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean that Wu-Tang. Don't sleep on the Wu-Tang influence because they're
Iron Man.
specifically
Oh, hell yeah.
comic book fans. Like.
yes.
Swinging through your town, through your neighborhood, Spider-Man. I remember hearing that as a kid, and it blew my mind that he said this, that he actually said that
Okay.
reference. Origins
That's
of Marvel
awesome.
Comics by Stan Lee.
Nice.
But yeah,
Well,
definitely shout out
I
to
mean, like
Wu-Tang.
Tony Stark and like Johnny Blaze.
Yeah.
That was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Raekwon would be at Comic-Con with his own table, working with major brands. So like they're comic book geeks. I don't know if I'm sure the rappers are, but I
And I
haven't.
think
Look at somebody like Pharaoh. Pharaoh is
Pharaoh definitely.
Pharaoh has toys all over his
His
house.
toys,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
there are a ton of us that are.
Hell yeah.
I think
Pharaoh Munch.
more likely than not, most MCs are fans of comic books and comic book movies, and a lot of them I've found are very artistic. A lot of MCs can draw very well, and what they would draw mostly was like comic
It was
books.
comic books. That's how I started.
Oh yeah.
so. Let's bring this Wanda discussion up to episode 8 because we've been talking about the early episodes, and so now we've figured out that Agatha or Agnes is really Agatha Harkness, right? Wait, is
Right.
it Agnes? That what she was going by on the show, and she was like the neighbor who comes in, quick one-liners on the sitcoms, but something more sinister. And in episode 7, it was hinted like that maybe she's controlling this whole town, and she's got a hex on Wanda. Maybe Wanda's the victim. Maybe she's not even doing any of this. We think she is now, and now she thinks she is. So, and then of course they had the Agatha all along song, but yes, what they really meant was Agnes was Agatha all along. But they threw us another, trick to make us think that it was Agatha controlling everything all along, which was now we know in episode 8 is not the case. And they gave a really nice Agatha background, and they went back to 1693.
Yeah, the Salem.
Yeah, but I heard that Agatha's character was like 1,000 years old, so even before that. But maybe I'm wrong, or maybe they've changed it in the show. Does anyone know more on the Agatha story than what they've showed us on the show?
Yeah, I don't know how old she is.
Yeah, I mean, she was around for the Salem witch trials.
That's all we know.
She's a character who kind of in the comics, plays the line between being good and bad. At one point in time, she was the nanny for Franklin Richards. She was Scarlet Witch's mentor, and taught her a lot of how to use her magic and her powers and stuff like that. But how old she is, I don't know.
That's what I remember her just as being another witchcraft person that was mentoring Scarlet Witch. I didn't know about that. The Richards tie-in. That's interesting.
And the old lady was her mom, right?
She was not a villain at all, from what I understand.
Say it again.
She wasn't a villain either. I think originally in the comics.
Not really. Not really.
I mean, she did things that play to her goals a lot. That you can take as evil, not evil, but like just not a hero. But she was never like
she wasn't classified a villain.
Right.
It seems like to me she's an opportunist. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. To be honest with you, she's still not. She still hasn't done anything villainous.
She killed
Sparky.
She hasn't done anything.
She killed the dog, right?
Was that a shout out to Wizard of Oz and your dog too? And your little
listen, there's some magic happening. There's some magic happening that's just off the scale. She came to check it out. She's like she's worrying why Scarlet Witch is being so irresponsible with this magic. So she's trying to find out, how do you know this? Why do you not know this?
But I think
Mark, she didn't seem too upset when she killed her mom and the other witches in the coven.
Well, they were trying to kill her, though.
I mean, Blitz, are we going to judge us by our past? Am I going to judge you by your past? That should happen in the 1600s, bro.
You bringing up those things? Let's keep it real.
They were trying to kill her, though.
Man.
Why you bringing up all stuff?
They were trying to kill her.
So, like, what's the statute of limitation on genocide and like when it's not it's okay?
In New York specifically, I'm asking for a friend.
In Salem.
Yeah, man, funny.
But
because she can still rise at the end of this being her mentor is my point.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There could be another threat that comes that's like, yo, listen, let me show you how to do this. Bam, 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 bam. Doctor Strange step in.
Listen. So
if Doctor Strange be a good mentor to her, I don't see it. He's such an asshole.
Who?
Doctor Strange kind of like Doctor Strange is kind of a dickhead.
I mean, he's
you think?
He's a sorcerer supreme, bro. Who else?
You got a lot of responsibility, right?
If at this point, because Agatha specifically said she was attracted by this large like spell of magic, right? If Doctor Strange didn't wake up at this point, he's not the sorcerer supreme.
No, but he could be monitoring the whole situation, and
better be monitoring
that we don't know about, and then we're going to find out episode 9. So we're into the predictions now. Everyone in the chat, if you got a prediction, start throwing your ideas in there. So episode 8,
Doctor Strange.
We know that the Vision's body, I mean the real Vision, he's in with Sword, and they've now created this white Vision. So we've changed the story a little bit. We know that Agatha is not controlling everything. What I think she really wants is to steal the powers, and I think that's why they were trying to kill her in 1693. They were like, you're using the dark powers, you're doing stuff with magic, and you didn't have authority to access that. Right, and the different colors, we'll discuss that too. Orange, purple, blue. There's different colors in magic in Marvel that mean, just like Star Wars lightsaber colors, right? The different colors symbolize different things. But I think that she has lasted this long by finding other people who have some kind of power or magic. And if it's a spell she could learn, she wants to learn it. And if it's a ring or a medallion or some gemstone, she's going to steal it. And I think she's an opportunist, and she wants whatever Wanda has. And I don't think she's a good guy, even though she's not a bad guy. She just, if I can take this from you and kill you, great. If I can help you, cool. But she wants to have all that power for herself. That's my theory. I'll give that back to you guys.
So she's like a, what's his name? The bad guy with the sticks.
Murdo?
Yeah.
Mordo. wanted to get. He said there was too much magic in the world,
Right.
and
He wants to destroy all.
to kill like wizards and
Right,
wizards
right.
and all of that.
Wow, he was the wizard
She's
Thanos.
different because she just wants the power for herself, and that
Right.
takes me back to me and MarXman was talking about this before. I think it was episode 7's commercial, which was the one with the yogurt, right?
Snacking on your magic.
And it was called Yo Magic, and it was because she was feeding off of Yo Magic. That's why it was called that. So
That's
and then
cool.
you see the red-headed kid on the island, and she's like, "Can I have?" The kid is like, "Can I have some of that?" He's like, "Sure, kid," and he gives him the magic, and he's expelling all his energy trying to get it open, and he dies, right? Because he used all his energy trying to use it or trying to get to it, but the shark, took it all or whatever. But
Same way Agatha sucked dry the whole.
I was just
coven.
about to say that.
Right.
yeah,
Same kind of.
Mhm.
like a vampire, like she's feeding off of her, but at the same time she's trying to figure out what she's doing or how she's doing it so that she can, drain her of it, take it from her. I think that this show is all about the colonization of America right now because
Wow.
Vision is the red man, right? He's a Native American, and now they're bringing in this white colonizing Vision to take his place, take
That's
his
so
woman.
Deep.
I'm kidding.
And scored as the cops, the police. So
I'm
they're the
totally.
authorities.
But I do think. Listen, I do
Sword
think.
into cavalry. It's Custer.
I do think that there's something extra about. I don't think that Agatha's going to wind up being the big bad, or if she is the
Right.
big
I
bad,
agree.
there's a secondary bad. The thing that I see is like, for a very long time I was like, he's just a government official who's like a jerk. But there's something really wrong there that he was that I saw it within this last episode, right? So Wanda got the deed to the plot of land you have to assume that Vision gave to her, right?
Right.
And I feel like he probably didn't give it to her.
Right.
Probably
There's something wrong with it.
It's next to this other building that has this whole protected, witch underground.
Are you saying that?
I don't know if she put that building there. If you,
I don't think she did.
Blitz, let me ask you.
She didn't live there. She didn't live there before this whole thing happened because she said she was drawn to the area.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that she lived there before, unless she just brought it with her when she came and she
I think it was already there.
Are you saying that Vision owned that land that she's now using in Western?
She has a deed to the land in
A town or a specific building?
No, that area where
a plot of land to build a house. Her and Vision are going to build a house there.
Okay.
Right. And that's where she falls down, and then she builds the house around her.
Right.
She actually builds a house.
Technically, if they were married and then he dies, that's her land. She gets it anyway. So
they're not married.
He's a robot, bro.
They're not married.
First, they're not married. Secondly,
The synthetic.
talking about the legality.
they were married, and there is someone right now married to a robot legally. There is someone
G.
on Earth. I don't know which
They
country.
didn't actually get married.
Off the
No,
rail.
I'm just throwing that in there
They
because
didn't actually get married.
and it's crazy. There is someone married to a robot.
Oh,
I saw it in
yeah.
the-
And do robots
Might
have
be in Japan.
married, right? Is the big question.
I missed that episode when Anyway, so him just doing all that, and I've seen a bunch of things throughout that makes it seem like he knows way more than he's letting on, and it just doesn't seem like
You should have plant ideas in her head.
I gotta write him down. Yeah, he was definitely trying to put ideas in her head to make Vision come back online. She let him in. He let her in on purpose so that she would hoping that she either would bring him online or bring him back to life or whatever, and then he could steal him back or whatever. I do believe that he knew that the drone that he sent in was specifically made to act as a sponge to absorb some of the power so that he could bring that back as a battery for the white Vision.
Definitely.
There's a couple other things that I can't think of off the top of my head. And I'm like, it just doesn't make sense unless there's something more to him than a government official who wants, a sentient weapon.
One of the rumors online is that he's Ultron.
I don't think
That's
he's
true.
Ultron. He could be
Yeah, I don't
working
think
with
so either.
Ultron.
One of the people in the comments was saying that because Vision's mind is wiped out of this white Vision body,
He
that
might be.
that he will now be Ultron, right?
Or they
I
could
think-
put
I think-
Ultron into the body.
Yeah.
They have a copy of Ultron.
Now,
saved.
sure, he could have James Spader's voice or whatever if you wanted to, but White Vision is emotionless. He's basically just a robot, so he won't emote like Ultron did or act like an Ultron
Unless Ultron takes him over.
That's true. But right now, you would assume that he's basically a blank slate that's made to just act on whatever Hayward wants him to do, right? Until something happens different, and then because Wanda has her own version in there, perhaps she'll overlay her version of Vision on top of the White Vision, and that's how you can bring him back into the Marvel universe outside
Right.
of the
And
bubble.
they sort of did that in the comics at one point.
I tend to believe that that Vision is just going to die again, and that's going to make her go crazy, so that we can go into the multiverse of madness, mom, with her out of her mind.
Okay, so there's some predictions for. So you
Yeah.
think that we're going to get something that takes us to MOM?
That's absolutely what's happening. This is
Well,
just
we have to.
that.
You know that they said that. They've said that already. 'Cause she's in the movie.
I don't have a specific person, but I'm going to predict, and maybe you guys, someone said Ultron, but I don't know about that. But the prediction is that there is going to be a reveal that the director of Sword is a Marvel character, either superhero or supervillain, not a normal dude who's the director.
Mhm.
That's what I was just
Maybe
talking
like,
about.
oh, right. So, but I don't know who it's going to be. There was talk about Mephisto. To any of you, what are all your thoughts on Mephisto? Because someone brought that up in the comments as well. I don't think that he's necessarily. He could be Mephisto, like was said, but do you think Mephisto will be revealed in episode 9 as some part of this? Maybe he was part of a certain part of it. Maybe he sent Agatha. Maybe he's doing something in mind control to Wanda.
Could
And
be
some people
Mephisto,
said that
could be
Vision is-
Nightmare.
He could be Ralph.
Ultron.
He could be Ralph because we still don't know who Ralph is.
He could be
And
Ralph.
Ralph is probably somebody who's. I mean, Ralph is. I don't see how Ralph is not the devil himself.
They
It all
also
goes back to Ralph, right?
He looks better in the dark. All the cues leads to Ralph being a dark, demonic, deep character.
and then you got Senior Scratchy, right? The rabbit, who is named Senior Scratchy, and Nicholas Scratches is Agatha Harkness's son. And then you also have the name Old Scratch, which is also another moniker for the devil, who is also Mephisto. So there's all she's had this rabbit.
Bunny could be Mephisto. That's like,
Maybe
because
so-
witches always have
Inkathon.
a medium, some kind of animal, and usually the mediums can shapeshift into human form and other things too. So that's interesting.
You think they're gonna include Nightmare or no?
I was thinking that for a really long time, but I don't believe so, just because nothing in this show has anything to do with dreams. Nobody's asleep, and that's Nightmare's whole thing, right? So it doesn't really match up.
Unless
the
the
fear
whole
of being
thing is a
alone.
dream sequence, and they've been asleep the whole time. I hate when they pull that in movies. At the end, they're like, "It was all a dream."
They did that with this one.
Nah. So Sycamore says, not full Ultron. So basically a part of Ultron. If you watch Age of Ultron, it says a part of Ultron was uploaded to Vision.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, look.
so they have Vision's body. So maybe they
Vision
extracted
is
the
a
Ultron part.
complex array of different thought patterns from you have Jarvis, you have Tony Stark, you have Ultron, and you also have the Hulk. Banner. It's all in there.
In the Mind Stone. And the Mind Stone.
In the Mind Stone, exactly. So
Can't forget that.
what you get out of taking away parts of him, we don't know. We won't know until he speaks in episode 9. Really,
He's gonna be a dead Jarvis. He's gonna be a monotone Jarvis.
that's exactly, and that's just Vision. It's Paul Bettany's voice. So it's just a monotone robot of a voice. I would
pretty
Now,
sure it's gonna
somebody
be.
tell me in the Iron Man story, did he decommission Jarvis when they had after Age of Ultron? Did they say, "Oh, this is a problem," or does he still have Jarvis? I mean, I know Iron Man's
So
dead.
Jarvis just merges with Vision.
Jarvis exists in his building, and that's his computer system.
So
artificial
in Age of
intelligence.
Ultron, the AI Jarvis was
Killed by Ultron. Right.
was kind of killed by Ultron. It wasn't really killed. He was just like pulled apart. But then
I remember they fought. Right.
But it was still around because it was protecting the nuclear codes that Ultron was trying to get.
At the Nexus, that's what I
right.
The Nexus reference.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If I remember correctly, Tony says that he dumped, like, his memory was erased, but his protocols survived.
Yeah,
that's why he was stopping Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that Sword has access, or they probably do, to whatever is left of Jarvis. Since
not
necessarily.
No,
just
Jarvis is all within Vision. Sorry.
I feel like all they had was the body, honestly. Everything else was gone because the Mind Stone was pulled out.
Right.
You see, but then you saw Shuri, who was trying to figure something out with him, which is weird. Like, how did they get the body? Right. That's what I want to know.
How did they have it? Exactly.
How did Shuri get the body? Because Wakanda?
Keep in mind, I mean, Nick Fury is still a part of Sword. It's interesting how separate they are right now, but they do have pull. You know what I mean? They do.
We don't know that.
And you know what's really great about those two names?
It's the MCU. We don't really know, do we?
When you put those two agencies together, you get Sword and Shield.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, Sword was supposed to be like an offshoot of Shield, right?
Yeah.
Shield.
Right.
It was just on the ground.
Nobody gets the Lord have mercy reference. No,
I know. But it's still a thing anyway. Sword and Shield.
What about Hammer? Hammer was
there you go. What is that? What is the acronym? It's like Sentient Worlds, Observation,
Sentient Weapon, Observation,
Research and Development. I don't know. Some shit.
Yeah. Because in the comics, it's World, I believe, but in this situation, it's Weapon.
Okay.
MCU is Weapon. So that's an interesting kind of. That's why I'm not on the Hayward being somebody else thing. I think he's somebody who works for Sword. The blip happened, like we said, Blitz. Like, they've been through a lot in these 5 years.
Yeah, for sure.
It was hard. Like, we see him as such a villain. Once again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I see him. They went through some stuff, and they need some technology, and they started mining and digging. And
I didn't see him as a bad guy either. I saw
so many
him
heroes
as
blipped out too.
Guy trying to work to secure national security or world security, just like Shield and Nick Fury.
You kidding me? At one point in time, half of the universe disappears. You're gonna be on some next level ish then. At that point.
Yeah, right, for sure.
And you got all these super beings and mutants flying around doing stuff. That's the same way Nick Fury wanted
massive genocide.
He's gonna want some kind of weapons, and same way they wanted Iron
Man
to
protect
the
half
planet.
the humans, half the Kree, half the Skrulls, half the CR, half of the.
Hayward's like, he's unhinged at this point, right? Hayward. He's lost some of his like connection to reality. He's so upset and angry about the blip, right?
Yeah,
possibly. He's afraid,
So one thing that nobody has touched on that I want to bring into it, you just mentioned, somebody mentioned Tony Stark. So people have said maybe Professor X will come because he can take over with his mind control and to handle Agatha and help Wanda.
Nah.
People say it's Doctor Strange for the same reason. I think it's Doctor Strange because he can do mind control and witchcraft, which can track the spells and all that. And he can go into the astral plane, all this other stuff. But nobody has said anything about Iron Man. And I've been reading that Iron Man gets resurrected in the comic books all the time, that he's died before, that they could just bring him back even though he died in Endgame. Does anyone have any thoughts about Iron Man or anything from the Iron Man story, even if it's not Tony Stark's, maybe his technology? Because they did put the missile from Stark Enterprises, so they are tying that in.
I mean, I know the whole
predictions will
Tony
be
Stark's
any Iron Man
legacy.
reference in Episode 9.
I know Tony Stark's legacy is going to be diverted to the Armor Wars show. I don't think that's going to have anything to do with this at all.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. The missile was just a tie-in to Wanda's entire storyline, because that's what made her go to Hydra and say, you can experiment on me, and then XYZ followed down the line. So that thing is, he's a through line throughout the entire Marvel universe. He was the first in the MCU. So he's tied into almost everybody's origin story.
He really is.
Especially with her and Pietro, who saw him as a warmonger. But
Vision too, right?
Like Mark said, I do believe that they're going to use him more within Armor Wars, and if he does get resurrected, it's probably going to be as a Jarvis type thing, as an artificial intelligence for Riri Williams when they do the Ironheart show, because that's what he was for her when he was dead in comic books.
Right.
They're doing an Ironheart show? Is that happening?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah.
Does anybody think at the end of episode 9, or even if they do a season 2 and they continue this later, that Vision will be resurrected? Whether it's the White Vision and then they put they find his program and put it in there.
Chance.
Not a new Vision, like this is a new person now. That guy's dead because you can't resurrect him, but actually bring him back so that people who feel bad that he has his big hole in his head and got ripped off.
I mean, it may be a Vision.
Yeah, they're like, he's back now and he could be in future Avengers and everything.
It may be a new Vision, like how they did Groot, like a new fresh Vision. It may be somebody like a fresh copy who has no memories of the past. It may be something like that. But they're gonna
those memories are just data. You can always get those.
Blitz was saying about the lack of emotion with him, and I think what's going to happen is I think he's going to be alive, but it's going to be heartbreaking because he can't love Wanda because he's incapable of it. So she's going to get him back, but he's not going to be whole, right?
Yeah, there's an arc.
It'll be really tragic in that regard.
When the White Vision first comes in the West Coast Avengers, I think it was in the West Coast Avengers when he first white.
They broke up, right?
All of that happened, right? The kids come and he's like, "I'm not your father. I don't know who you are." And then she touches him and she's like, "You're a monster. Like, you don't feel like you're not. He's not who he was anymore. He's just
right.
He's everything without the emotion and the memory of even being with her. So who knows what happened? I
think the Wonder Man, I believe, after that, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Wonder Man.
I think that's when she called him a toaster.
Damn, that's cold.
And they used the toaster in the commercial.
That was the commercial tie-in.
Yeah. That's really.
It's hard being a synthetic being,
It is hard, man. I don't want
to. What are we saying?
Like Rodney Dangerfield, they get no respect.
I thought they were going in terms of the emotionless thing and loving Wanda. I thought they were saying like prior to this relationship with Wanda, he didn't have any experience with this. Remember, he sat down with her and he was like, "I don't know what feeling of loss feels like because I've never had emotional attachment to anyone and then lost them." But I thought and I wanted to say like, well, what about now? Now you've been living with Wanda as a couple. Now maybe this is your first time. If Wanda dies right now, how will you feel? And then will you now? Because AI learns and trains itself, and we're trying to create AI now that would have feelings and opinions. So Vision, he's super AI. Yeah, maybe he could do it.
The Terminator and the Matrix.
He's not a robot. He's a synthetic being, right? So he's a synthezoid, exactly, right? So it's not like he's a computer program learning things. He obviously throughout from the first movie up to here, he has love for the human race. He empathizes with people. He certainly cares for Wanda, right?
So they're not emotionless, then you're saying?
No, he's not emotionless now. We're talking about the White Vision that doesn't have all those things.
Right. Okay, I got you. I thought you were saying that his character in general always.
No, he's been wiped and rebooted, right? But they took away all the parts that could make him a liability, basically, right? So now he's just.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And the Vision can be so dangerous. Imagine a Vision without any love for humanity.
Oh yeah.
That alt world Vision that was just putting his hands through people and disrupting their brains and their hearts like there's nothing. Killing people left and right.
Seriously.
Now you were talking about what if, Ronin, before. There was a what if Vision conquered the world or took over the world, and there was like a good version where he like saved the world and made it like a utopia, and then there's a bad version where he like the humans didn't want him to take over the world, and he became like this dictator with like Doctor Doom and like some of the other villains. I mean, Vision's very powerful, and the density thing doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's a real that's his like great superpower because he can change density.
He can go right through you and disrupt all your organs.
Yeah.
Just
In the MCU,
slow.
Shuri will be the only one that will be able to stop him.
You said Sherry?
Shuri.
Yeah. She's gonna become the next Black
They're
Panther.
like, Shuri, well, we got a vision loose. We did
Well, what
yeah,
about
yeah.
Monica though? Because Monica can become energy.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I
She
think Monica.
may very well be the new like super powerful.
In the meantime,
Right.
Yeah,
Why
are
you
we
call
gonna
it
see her
Shuri?
powers? I hope we do, by the way.
We saw a little bit.
We saw a little bit.
I think there's going to be a lot of fights in episode 9, and I
Yeah, I
think
hope so.
one of them might be her fight with like Pietro, or she'll have to at that point in time she'll team up with Wanda at the very end for a fight against the White Vision.
And she could fight Pietro. She can move at the speed of light.
I do think that the whole family, right, is going to get together and fight, whatever the bad is at the very end. I think we're going to see that. Just from the little pieces of like clips and things that I've seen.
yeah, they showed us still with the family kind of
Yeah.
There's some
That
predictions.
makes sense.
Now, some people have predicted that the 2 kids will die, and some have predicted that they will live and become a spin-off TV show or movie, in the future.
Well, they're doing a Young Avengers.
Yeah.
They already announced that.
So they can't kill them off because they need that.
No, they can't.
No, they can.
They can kill them off and resurrect them later.
Because that's what happened in the comics.
Right.
Okay.
That's with House of M, right?
Yeah.
They probably would, because I think that
Well, it's before House of M, actually.
Yeah,
It's not
Avengers
House of M.
Disassembled, right? It happened in Avengers Disassembled.
So if we get philosophical for a moment, in the superhero movies,
Oh, right. That's
they
true.
need to kill people, because people hate when everyone's so super and nobody dies, and it's like no matter what, nothing. Well, he threw him off a cliff. Well, he was able to survive because of this power or that power, and no one ever dies. So they need to kill people. But there's a moral, ethical thing where if you're doing a superhero movie and it's for kids, and also it's about superheroes, it's supposed to have like a positive theme, and so that you can't just kill someone. Like there has to be a really good reason.
A lot of people in Marvel.
And this goes to other genres too, not just Marvel, but like even like Star Wars and things like that. If they can kill something that's a droid, cool. If they can kill a clone, cool. If it's a monster that doesn't exist in our universe, but they just made it up for the comic and they kill it, that's not a person, right? If it's an alien, well, aliens came. These are things I've noticed over the years in different movies that are acceptable kills, right? So in Marvel, it seems like they can have even the good guys sometimes die, and because they always resurrect them. Like there's always a resurrection. It's almost overdone. Like there'll be a comic book for 60 years and the same villains and the same heroes are still there. No one has ever died.
Yeah, people always come back. Jean Grey came back how many times?
Right. If they kill someone, it has to be a really important message. Like
Captain America came
Peter
back.
Parker's uncle got killed because, and that
that
made him want to be a superhero.
I think it's about money. If you have a character that makes you money and you can bring it back to make you more money, you're going to bring it back to make you more money.
Same as the comics.
And they kill him to make money because they know you're going to buy the comic, or when they die, like, oh, this is the one where he dies. What's going to happen, right? So it's all financial. It's not about I think the ethical killing of it, but obviously they got to tell a compelling story. But I also do think that the Marvel, I think Iron Man's going to stay dead. Okay. I think Black Panther's going to stay dead.
Well, they're keeping him dead.
I think Pietro's going to stay dead. I do.
I think Black Widow's going to stay dead.
And what's interesting is that's why, not to change to a different movie, but that's why I left Logan, the theater, so shook, because not only was everyone dead, all the mutants were dead, and then, what happened at the end. I don't know if I'm spoiling it for someone. If you didn't watch
years ago. That's years ago. They should have watched it by now.
So Professor X and Wolverine, of course. So does anyone predict? Do we rule out Professor X? He's not coming to episode 9.
No.
If he shows up, we're all wrong. Maybe Mephisto, maybe Doctor Strange, right?
I think absolutely Doctor Strange.
Okay.
I hope
Doctor Strange better show up in this next episode.
Facts.
If it doesn't, then my last video was wrong, because I was like, Doctor Strange. Okay. I want to at least be able to say, look, I predicted it. Even though they gave us clues. I didn't predict it at episode 1. I predicted it after episode 7.
If he doesn't show up, Brother Voodoo or somebody, I don't know.
Scarlet Witch going to be Sorcerer Supreme now.
Yeah.
With Scarlet Witch. I like I liked how they named her. And Marvel does this a lot. Like they come up with the way to say the person's name, like, oh, such and such. And then you're like, oh, that's her name. I love how they did that in episode 8.
Yeah.
She said, you're the one, like you're the one with the legend of this person. Every generation has this person. You're this generation's, you're the Scarlet Witch. You know, I thought that was great. So it's not like she just was like, I like red. I'm going to be a superhero. I need a really cool name. Let me see, you know, Scarlet Witch. No, it's not like that. You know, they like
fortune teller.
Love that.
One of the corniest things they do in movies, G, and you bring that up. They do this very corny thing in movies when they name characters for the dumbest reasons. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the kids are calling you Phoenix now. You know, like they did that in Dark Phoenix. Like
Wow.
they always do some silly gimmick to get the name. So you're definitely right. Just having it be an emphatic statement to end the episode, no less. You are the Scarlet Witch. That was just the you know, Marvel doesn't waste time. Like when in Avengers Endgame, when Captain America said Avengers Assemble, every fan was like, damn, they could have said that 1,000,000 times earlier.
Yeah.
They could have said Avengers Assemble 1,000 times, but
even the Avengers name, right. Even the name
Assemble.
Avengers, remember?
Yeah,
it was like a conversation with Nick Fury, and he was talking to someone. He was like, "We need a team. We need someone, you know." And then somehow the word Avengers came out of a natural conversation as well.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just they weren't like with a list of paper. So what do you guys think? X-Men is taken. Let's see. The Super Friend. No, Avengers. Everyone vote. It's Avengers. All right, we're Avengers. Like
they explained it in Captain Marvel because she called herself Avenger.
Right. And they put, I like how they slipped that in there.
On our plane.
Yeah.
It's good writing because, you know, that's what makes or breaks sometimes a story is how you tell the audience the things you want them to know without just saying it or saying it for a stupid reason. And then it feels like you just had them say, like when someone comes into the room, they're like, "Hi, Bob Jones, who works for IBM. What are you doing here today?" You know, they just say something like nobody would say that if someone came in a room, but they want the audience to know that this is the guy that works for IBM and his name is Bob Jones. I just totally made that up. Like, so I do hate when they do that. That's exactly what you're talking about, Mark.
What's that saying? You have to show, don't tell, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's
got to feel real. It's got to be part of the dialogue. Got to be natural. It can't just. So, and it's hard because everyone knows these things from the comic books. It's not like they're making up a new story. Like they've got to tell it, and they got to not make it corny, even though it's been in the book already. And they've got to update it for the current science and technology of the day. You know, like they even with the Spider-Man backstory, they changed it. You know, back in the day, a spider went through some radiation. It bit him, right? And then they updated over the years. They're like, well, what actually happened is his DNA changed. And they didn't even know that back then when they wrote the original Spider-Man. But, you know, they always, and then even the Hulk too. You know, originally,
dead, by the way,
a different reason why he became the Hulk.
Marvel, yeah. Only Captain Marvel stays dead, right?
Yeah, he got his lung cancer or cancer, and he died.
Yeah.
But
I would love to see
this character dirty in the MCU.
I'm going to do a prediction right here, and I don't know if this is going to happen in episode 9. If it does, this will be so awesome. But if they do a second season, I would love to see Monica Rambeau, in the silver with the fabric here with the wings, you know, the uniform that Blitz showed us the card of, the collector's card. If for some reason, like they were like, "Oh, you're going through," he's shaking his head. No, but they can write it in. She can be like, "Oh, I need to go through," but it's changing, and they're like, "Wear this protective coating of this silver thing that we have." You know, Sword gives her something, and then when she goes through, all of a sudden she turns around, and it's like, bam, and you're like, "Oh, it's a costume." You know?
Just spin around like
with the afro.
Woman.
I think she's gonna have a cool costume. I don't know if she'll be like that.
It could be an afro because she's had an afro.
It's always fun in these movies, in the shows, when they, you know, obviously most of the original costumes that these characters wore are not practical at all, right? But they make a way for you to get it, even if it's just for a second. Like you get that impractical like BS costume, and then you put them back into, you know, what they're wearing now, the tactical gear, you know,
tiara and all that.
I mean, she's going to do like movies and stuff in the future. I feel like very soon. I mean, she's a good character, and she's, you know, and she's super attractive. Like you gotta use her more. I really think.
Talk about Monica. Who are you talking about?
Yeah, Monica.
Well, she's gonna be when they do Captain Marvel 2. she'll be in that. Miss Marvel will be in that because she has her own show coming as well. So it'll be like a super like female force.
Right. Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited about Miss Marvel because I'm from Pakistan and I'm from Jersey. So
great.
Yeah, the representation is really exciting.
Yeah. And you're from Jersey. It's like perfect.
Yeah, hell yeah. I'm gonna get like my nieces like the the Miss Marvel like comics because they're getting into that age.
Super dope.
So well written.
It's very dope.
Yeah.
No doubt. Shout out
and
to
even behind the camera, there's a lot of talent, of Indian descent.
Absolutely, yeah. The writing, directors, everybody.
Look behind the camera.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Nieces,
the whole
nieces, the talent behind the camera as well.
That's dope. Because there's not a lot of only recently were there like South Asian superheroes, right?
Yeah.
Like Miss Marvel, Trailblazer.
There's a featurette on Disney Plus about the new show, the Miss Marvel show. You should definitely check it out. That shows everybody scenes talking about it.
And that girl that he seems perfect.
Yeah.
Shout out to Maggie Gaming. Said the kids won't die because it's Disney. They might just fade away.
Oh, don't.
No, I don't think they're gonna die. I think they're gonna be on Disney.
Yeah, they might disappear and become resurrected later. I don't think they're gonna die violently.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna get an axe to the chest or anything. But I do think that they could somehow die and bring Wanda more grief, which is going to cause her to go mad.
Exactly.
That's Disney too.
The worst fake movie death that I hated was the end of Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf was like, "In my time now, I have to go somewhere else." He got in a boat and sailed away. It's like, dude, he was gonna die. Come on.
Or
they just didn't want him to die for the little kids. Like,
they don't have to die, but what if they get pulled to another dimension, and then that's what Multiverse of Madness is about? Is her and Doctor Strange going and look to get the kids back, and when she gets them back, they're 20 years old, and now they can join the young things.
That'd be cool.
Interesting. And while we're predicting,
not 20, but yeah.
How many of you, by show of hands, think that there will be some kind of multiverse reference? Because I played that clip in
there already is.
Is this kind of alternate universe or reality? Remember they said that in one of the.
You mean in episode 9? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that they're going to somehow reveal something with multiverse or talk about it.
It may be like the last note of the series.
Yeah, right.
Like even that epilogue when the credits roll, then there's a little. Maybe they just throw something in like that.
It could be that.
The way they used to do with Endgame references and things like that.
End credit scene.
Something about multiverse. Maybe they're having a conversation. It would be really cool if they had that conversation. It was Nick Fury. He came to visit Hayward, and they were having a conversation. He says, "Well, something with the multiverse," and they're like, "Oh," and it goes black. That's it. And then you're like, "All right." Now I want to see season 2.
I want to see old school Nick Fury meet Samuel Jackson Nick Fury, like in a I'm Nick Fury. No, I'm Nick Fury.
Yo, that would be crazy if David Hasselhoff
played the old Nick Fury.
David Hasselhoff.
Oh yeah, for sure. That'd be so bad.
Insane.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
That would be the best use of David Hasselhoff ever.
Ever.
Aside from Knight Rider, of course.
Don't forget Kung Fury, the song on Kung Fury.
On what?
What's that?
Go watch Kung Fury after this. David Hasselhoff did a song and a music video for Kung Fury. It's on YouTube. It's crazy.
Oh my God. You learn something every day.
It's
chat case
80s martial arts, time travel, evil Kung Fu Hitler. Just watch it. You'll love it.
Does anyone?
And we acting like David Hasselhoff wasn't in fucking Guardians of the Galaxy too. Like they got his number.
Yeah. Okay.
He was.
Yeah, he was his fake father. They had that little. You remember how Chris Pratt wanted?
Yes.
His father. They got his number.
Oh, right. That's so funny.
That's not even a far-fetched idea, to be honest with you. That's not a far-fetched idea for Marvel to do that.
Right.
I think DC would do something corny like that. But I don't want to see David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury.
We were kidding. I don't want to see him.
If he comes in, he has to sing or something.
Cool old mean Nick Fury, Clint Eastwood. He's a World War II vet.
Clint Eastwood's too old.
He's too old.
Yeah. Maybe like 15, 20 years ago. Yeah.
No, but
Nick Fury fought World War II, bro.
If you age up his son that looks exactly like him and have him Nick Fury.
Yeah.
His son has been trying to play
He's a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he could play Wolverine. I think
He's
he
been
might
trying to.
I really want a shorter Wolverine. I don't want a 6
Me
foot
too,
Wolverine.
man.
I don't
Me too.
want.
As a short, hairy person, Wolverine was my guy.
Yeah, for sure.
J-RONIN's
we're gonna get
auditioning.
that, bro.
He's
No.
online. He's got his script. He's like Wolverine.
Guys, I gotta go. I gotta go. Because I just got in and then I came in straight in here to talk to you guys and put on my comic book T-shirt for you guys, all that. But Mark, hit me when you know what you want to do. And guys, great talking to you. G, you got any last words before I go?
Just for you, if there's any other predictions of something we didn't talk about that you want to throw out there, and then
predictions
about tomorrow, some person or thing that we didn't already discuss.
Nah, man. Knowing that this movie, this show, is supposed to be the setup for the next 2 movies of, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and it also then will tie into the next Spider-Man movie, which is going to have some multiverse, aspects in it, because we already know we're getting 3 Spider-Mans at least for a split second. We're getting more than one Spider-Man in that movie. So this multiverse thing is going to play for a while, right? It's not just going to be like a flash in the pan, and that might be a way for them to pull in more IP from other places. For sure. But I do think that at least I'm hoping. I hope that Wanda becomes the villain that she should be, at least for a little while. So I do want her to just lose it and
huge battle scene.
No, I want her to be a bad guy for a little while, even if it's reluctantly.
She's a bad guy right now. She took a whole town of people. Imagine you live in that town. You're Blitz. You're L.R. Blitzkrieg. All of a sudden, you're Ed the Milkman.
She's like, no, you ain't.
You can't do anything you want to do. Like,
yeah.
I was trying to explain to a friend of mine who didn't get the violation. You can't be you.
Yeah.
Like,
and she did it with like 1,000 people, not 1 or 2 people.
You're in a sitcom. Oh well. No, imagine you're you, and all of a sudden you're not you. You've been totally violated. Your free will has been taken away.
Enslaved all the town, basically.
I think
they were still aware of what was happening, right?
It's slavery on every way.
That's interesting.
You're a slave to her little sitcom life.
Yeah. I think Fox did Dark Phoenix twice, right? And so I don't think they're going to touch that again when they do, if and when they bring the X-Men or mutants into the Marvel universe. Nobody wants to see it, just like they don't want to see, Uncle Ben die again. Like we've seen that 4 times already. I don't want to see it again. So I think that this is the Marvel universe's version of that with doing that with Wanda instead.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that she is the reluctant bad guy for at least one movie. Give me one.
And that's another reason I don't want to see Professor X, because it's going to be reminiscent of that. Like, Jean went crazy, tried to help her.
Everybody's
leave it. You're not seeing the mutants.
No. People know that. People know that.
Well, Pietro and his sister are mutants. But
people know that Marvel got the rights to mutants, so they're trying to shoehorn mutants into everything as fast as they can. Sure. And I say just let it play naturally. Don't try to force it in there so that now you have to rush an X-Men movie or whatever. Figure it out in a way that makes the best absolute sense. And then that we got enough characters to slow play it. That's all.
Get out of here, Blitz. Get out of here.
All right, cool. Get ready for your next show. And I'm going to go down the line and ask other people that.
I want to say before you go, Blitzkrieg.
You asked about the holograms.
That's awesome. Yes, the holograms.
I got that status star card.
So dope. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Blitz, he wants to tell you something.
I'm listening. One thing real quick. You guys have inspired me.
I'm the dopest rapper you ever heard in your life.
I'm sorry?
You want to tell me? You want to tell me I'm the dopest rapper you ever heard in your life?
Yes, that too. That's true. That was number 2. You're the dopest rapper I've ever heard in my life. But number 2, I wanted to say that I want to do a program. I want to do a library program on the intersection of hip hop and nerd culture, and I want you all to be on it. Does that sound good?
I'm down. Right. But we got to record it. So
we got to record the next one, because that last one.
I know. I'm going to make the library record things because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. But no, I definitely they don't just give us permission to record it, and then we'll record it.
Because I think there's a lot of depth in this conversation. I'm realizing and talking about this intersection, and I think the people are going to want to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys.
All right.
Later,
so we're going to wind it down. I'm going to remind everybody to like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. This podcast is going to live till like Friday. I think it's going to live for another week after that because it says episode 9 and people are going to keep coming to it. But, after Friday, we're going to know the answers to all these questions. There's a chance that everything we predicted, that none of it is the case, that there's something totally different that we haven't even thought of, that we're like, what? And then we're like blown away by that. There's a chance. But there's also a chance that several of the things that we said right here today actually are in the next episode. Is there anything, any last predictions or things you want to throw in there? And then after that, we'll just shout out our podcasts and things and, end the show.
Correct. I have one small prediction. I think that they're going to explain Doctor Strange not being there from jump by saying that he's been busy since he came back repairing all the damage of not having a Sorcerer Supreme for 5 years. And like you can imagine that he's got a lot on his table, right?
Good point. He also could be part of helping deal with the blip and everyone coming back.
Yeah.
And who was, maybe there was a Sorcerer Supreme, after the blip. And who
Wong?
was it?
Was it Wong maybe?
Who? I mean, I'm saying who?
I don't think that title was just passed around like that.
Right.
I mean, the comics, Brother Voodoo was for a while.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember who else.
That's
I
very
feel like Brother
true.
Voodoo was the only person, right? Or there's maybe like 2 others.
There might have been 1 or 2 others.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's definitely a small circle.
Indeed.
So Jay, what do you think? We're gonna definitely.
I don't know.
See
I think Hayward's being manipulated by some evil being, maybe Mephisto or Cthon. We'll see. And go check out the Slim and Mickens album out now with Frank Knight and Chuck LaWayne. Got a lot of other projects coming out. Go see Kung Fury after this on YouTube. It's free.
I'm going to.
It's nuts.
I put it in the chat too.
Yo, G, you will love it. It's crazy.
That's dope.
It's crazy.
MarXman, any last thoughts about the show? And then tell us about your podcast real quick.
Man, this show is such a breath of fresh air, man. I'm just enjoying it. My predictions, I don't think Agatha is a villain. I believe that the kids aren't going to make it. She's going to wig out again. I don't think mutants have anything to do with this series. And we may, I don't know, I'm leaning towards maybe just this extra cameo at the end. Maybe we'll see like an Al Pacino or somebody's show up at the end or something. I don't know. Like I don't know.
De Niro, Al Pacino.
Hell yeah.
De Niro.
No, he'll be Hoffa, right? Because right.
He'll play Mephisto. Yeah,
Mephisto.
But that's basically it.
Wow, Al Pacino's Mephisto.
No, imagine Al Pacino from Devil's Advocate. That Al Pacino as
Mephisto. That's
like,
what I'm saying.
That'll be dope.
He's expressed interest in wanting to be in Marvel for a while.
Really?
Interesting. It's just something that I could see them doing. And then
keeping it secret. Out, that's the case.
It'll be the only way to be able to like put some of these pieces together, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm just hoping it's more than an hour. That's my only prayer. I don't care.
That would be his character if they gave it to that. Who would kill that? So tell us about your podcast. I know you just wrapped a season and you just did part 2, right, of that last one.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the podcast in general and the name of it and where to find it, and do that in like 2 minutes.
Yes. My podcast is entitled X Marks the Black Podcast, where it's an intersection between entertainment news and Black culture. I have the last 2-part series I just did was a spinoff of the What If series. It was What If the N-Word Ended. But I do I've done some WandaVision takebacks, but I do a lot of just exposés on just kind of filtering what we're going through just through a Black nerd lens.
What are some of the other movies you talked about?
A lot of fun. Well, I broke down. I had a 3-part series on how Hollywood ruined the X-Men films. Being an X-Men fan, that's definitely something that I had fun doing that. I broke down a lot of the streaming wars. I had a series called The Streaming Wars, where I kind of just went from the different streaming platforms, highlighting what's going on. I covered a lot of.
I missed that one. I got to go look at that because I was asking questions about different platforms. Remember?
I can't find it online. Can we drop it in the comments or something?
Of course. Of course.
Definitely.
Um,
I did write the name of it, X Marks the Black podcast, in the comments.
You
Where
can
should
definitely
we
search for
find it?
that.
Spotify.
You can go to themarksman.com and find it. That's my website.
Great. Okay.
Writing that right now.
The Marksman is my handle. You can definitely follow me. It's in my Instagram bio.
Themarksman.com, right?
Yes, sir. Themarksman.com.
All right. It's in the chat. There we go. All right.
But yeah, we have fun with it.
Good shit.
So it's on it's on almost every audio platform, right? Where it's an audio podcast to let people know. You said you're planning on doing some visual stuff, and you're doing the IG things as well. IG
yeah,
Live.
we'll do IG in a couple hours. So if you guys have enough energy to join, Blitz and I are gonna get on, and we're gonna fine tune
you and everything.
We're gonna get really, really, really. I know you guys got nerdy, but we're gonna go extra.
And that's tonight on Instagram Live.
Tonight.
What time around?
At 8.
All right, I might have to jump on. I think I have a meeting, but I'll see if I can jump on.
I know there's a lot of time. I know there's a lot of the evening, but we're trying to.
I just followed you on the gram.
I got you back, bro. I'll get you back. I promise.
Oh yeah, I'll do the same. Thank you,
brother. Of course, it's good to meet. I know G's always connected to some good people, so I'm glad to.
Yeah, no, he helped me with So I had a program where I talked about Lyricist Lounge, and then Wise Guy and Gaston jumped aboard, and he jumped aboard, and then all of a sudden Wordsworth came on, Blitz was there, and Marshall. That was fantastic.
Those are my people, man.
A history project for Lyricist Lounge, and what I'm going to try to get like the Schomburg Center for Black Culture. I want to get a 30th anniversary Lyricist Lounge concert, and I want the library to do it when we open. I don't know if I can. I don't know if they're going to be down with it, but I'm going to try.
Is he in touch with Anthony G?
Yeah. Through
Yeah.
Anthony showed up and told us a lot of gems, and even was able to correct me. Like I was like, I think it's either this, and he was like, oh, and then boom, Anthony popped in. Hey, let me clarify. So we heard it right. It was a show, talking about Lyricist Lounge, and then Anthony came and gave us a breakdown. He told us some gems, some stories
God bless you, man.
When they were first starting before it became the Lyricist Lounge, like when they were coming up with the name and doing their first ones, and how that all came about. He broke it down. That was great. And unfortunately, the library was not recording these. So I'm saddened by that. So we need to do those type of shows again, and you got to convince them to record, or I'll just record it. Whether I wish I'd recorded that one. It was a great talk.
No, it was just like an oral history.
A lot of people, right? Like 50. It wasn't like a little thing like this. It was like a huge amount of participants.
For sure.
In that chat. So I'm gonna give you my last prediction, and then tell you guys where to follow. So I think Doctor Strange is 100% going to be a part of this. If he doesn't show up tomorrow, I'm going to be really upset, because it seemed like they've been hinting at that. So maybe they just want to throw us off.
He'll be there. And I'll put money on it.
I think Hayward is the alter ego of a known superhero or supervillain. Someone not just like a Nick Fury, who's a regular guy who works at the company, like someone on the level of like a Magneto or Mephisto. So I don't know who he is, but is going to come out. He wouldn't be Magneto, because we know what Magneto looks like, but I'm saying a powered person who's really important to the story in the Marvel universe. I don't have any opinions on whether the kids die or not, and I'm not that interested in their story. They were just like, it was too cutesy how they were babies, and then they were like, we want to be 10, and they turned up, I didn't really get an emotional attachment to them like I do with Vision and Wanda.
They don't feel real yet.
I think Agatha's trying to steal the powers. I think she's going to make a play for it. She wants to know, because she knows Scarlet Witch's powers previously, and she's saying like, this is totally different. You've got your mind control on autopilot. You got people, you sucked people in, and you're making them clowns in a circus. Like, this is too much. Did you find an Infinity Stone? Did you use the book? Remember? And that book, I predict, definitely came from Doctor Strange's library. That is the missing book that was referred to in one of the
from the Ancient Ones
library. Or Doctor Strange. There was a time when I think he was with Thor, he was in the house, and he was like, oh, that's strange, that book is missing, and they just showed like a shelf of the missing book. And I think that's the book that's in the basement, and I think it's the Darkhold. There's 2 or 3
that'd be so awesome, right?
of that.
It could be the Necronomicon, and Cthulhu's coming.
Yes, I heard that.
I don't know. I'm just joking.
I took some notes. Let me see if I forget anything.
The
Other things that the
Darkhold
book could be
highly possible.
I think that the significance of the colors and magic energy is very important, and I
Yeah.
hope that they explain that a little.
They had the
people who don't get it.
Darkhold in Agents of Shield, by the way.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe not.
So
They
the,
did have the
could be the
Darkhold,
Necronomicon, like you said, which is, for those that don't know, I have the official from, I think I got this from Wikipedia. It is an ancient book containing black magic created by Abdul Alhazred, the Mad Arab. Spells in the book allowed the conjurer the power to summon demons. Okay. It's created in the 8th century, banned for centuries, and then copies of the book eventually falls into the hands of Wanda, Agatha, and Doctor Strange. So that's why that's a good possibility.
Okay.
Or like you said, like I said, the Darkhold, which is another possibility. According to Marvel lore, evil elder god Cathan, I think is how
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who's also connected to Wanda.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. He wrote evil works and spells into an indestructible parchment, and then those pages were taken later and bound into a book. But that's the Darkhold, right?
Right.
He left the scrolls on Earth so they could serve as a conduit for his influence and power, and maybe he has something to do with this as well. Has a long history all the way into the 21st century. So Marvel characters have taken advantage of its spells over the years, one of which, and here's why it's likely to be the Darkhold, one of which is the ability to control the will of others, which falls nicely into the events of WandaVision. And there's also another book called The Tome of Zered-Na. Anyone ever heard of that?
No.
I don't remember
It
that
says
one.
it was created by the sorceress who was Zered-Na, and the sorceress combined all her magical scrolls into a tome, and it's considered one of the most powerful books of magic created. There's also a book called the Book of Cagliostro, which came from the ancient private collection. So that also could have been the missing book in the library too. And
for sure.
on the dark side of the mystic arts, which that's what the Agatha they were talking about Agatha using that. So maybe Agatha's got that book because, like I said, I think she goes around trying to steal the secrets and the powerful things.
The interesting thing about the Darkhold is that that's like Marvel's Midnight Suns or like supernatural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a way to incorporate, which they already announced, Blade, right? Because Mahershala Ali, who's great, is going to play.
I'm very glad you said that.
He's cool. He's got he's going to play Blade, and it's going to be fantastic.
I'm very glad you picked that up because once they introduce witches and everybody's thinking about mutants, they're just trying to introduce another realm. And once you have that, you have vampires. So that does fit in nicely.
And then you can start entering anything you want, basically. And if they're going to do other realms and all that, I'm going to put this out here right now. I would like them to bring in Rom Space Knight. Why have they never done that story? That's like, you guys forgot about
my babysitter when I was a little kid in the 80s had all the issues of Rom and Conan the Barbarian. I used to go to her house and read them.
Oh yeah, my brother had Rom.
Like I was getting Rom read to me as a little kid.
So the book of Cagliostro, right, from the Ancient Ones private collection, focus on the dark side of the mystic arts, which they say often seduces their students and they lose their way and they become crazy people. So it's possible that that's part of Agatha's backstory as well, and that's why. And I don't know if it's going to relate to Wanda, but all of those books sound like they could work.
Oh, man.
The Darkhold
I wish it was coming out right now because I can't wait now.
About the Darkhold for some reason. That one, like you said, Irfan, it's like it's been the most popular of those. Those other ones I had to look up and find out about. So yeah, basically those are my predictions, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if those
5 days away.
Yeah, we got 5 days. Hey, keep sharing this video with friends, and let's add some more predictions and explanations and theories in the comments, and build this up because that's really the fun of what we're doing here. We're nerding out on this, but it's great, and that's part of Irfan, the intersection of hip hop and comic books. Is hip hop is about words, and so you're about telling stories and being authentic and captivating audience with an interesting stories, what you say. So comic books are like that too, so if you're into MCing or as a kid, you're a writer basically and a reader, therefore. So those all go together.
I love it.
So that's all for our show today. Thanks everyone for watching. Follow all these guys on what they're doing, their projects, whether they're music, podcasts, events at the library. They're all good stuff. We're pushing intellectualism, and we're having fun with these TV shows and these comics. Hope you learned something. If you did, tell a friend to subscribe to Cybersky videos.
Oh, one more thing.
J-RONIN,
I got to tell you two things real quick.
Go ahead, man.
I just signed a contract. I'm relaunching All Elements Radio finally.
Nice.
With a delicious vinyl and Dash Radio and like 10, 15 other platforms. I forgot them all. That's coming out in April. I'm definitely going to have you involved with that. Also, I'm doing a martial arts video show on YouTube called The Ronin's Journey.
Nice.
I know so many people in the martial arts world, from
of course
Chinese martial arts, Korean, Thai, Filipino, Japanese. I definitely want to have your seafood called Albright on it. I'm gonna get Xian Ming, the Shaolin monk, all kinds of jiu-jitsu masters.
Other good teachers too, people like Greg Mosley.
Yeah. Of course, Soke Little John Davis, and that whole family of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll definitely build on that. I do want to talk to you another time, another podcast about martial arts. We
do martial arts episodes here too. So I haven't launched them yet. I've been teasing it in my health series. I keep talking. Let's say I'm talking about anti-inflammatories, and I'll bring up because I was having some knee pain or some toe issues when I do this stance, and then I'll throw a clip of me doing kung fu, and I did throw a couple of clips of Sifu Carl all right in there.
I remember my triple pick.
There you go. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
That was 7-star Mantis. Good job. Yeah.
J-RONIN also. I want to watch. I want to try to get us to commit with
coming. Just so you guys know, the martial arts Cybersky videos episodes are coming, and maybe you're a good person to have on to do a live talk or a pre-record episode and talk about some of the things that you've done in martial arts.
I want to talk Shang-Chi and Iron Fist.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was going to say. Yeah, we should all watch Shang-Chi. I want to. If we can go back in the theaters, I want to watch Shang-Chi with you all.
Also, I just got a 75-inch screen TV, so we can have movie nights in the future. No, it's dope though.
I'm just messing with you.
Yo.
So that's all for this week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for
having me. Thank you,
everybody. It made the show special, and tune in soon because we're gonna do this next Friday, 4:00 after we've now seen the finale. So we're going to have a debrief. We're going to take all the pieces and fragments of our skulls that exploded when we found out something we didn't predict. And we're going to be like, oh my God, we got to talk about this. So we'll come back next week and we'll do that. And I'll be uploading my Wanda rant the next day or two. This is unrelated to Wanda, but it's got politics. It's got the Matrix. It's got cancel culture, Star Wars. There's a lot of stuff in this one rant. It's got a little bit of Wanda in there too. So look for that coming up on the channel.
Okay,
to everyone, stay positive. Remember, the best revenge is success. Stay healthy. And as always, stay blessed.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Later, guys.
Thank you.